The screen glows with the epic title of the game Deus Ex Machina Ragnarok, or just Demrock for those in the know. Right at launch, the game took over the global market, kicking off a new era of virtual reality. Hitting the absurd milestone of 100 million simultaneous players, a legend was born in the industry. But unfortunately, not everything lasts forever in this fantasy world. Over time, its popularity plummeted until the server shutdown was officially announced. Gathered around a bonfire in the middle of a dark forest, the last great players are chatting. With only 30 minutes left until the final shutdown, the mood is pure nostalgia. Our MC, known as Kaiser and none other than the #1 player on the server, is there, lost in his own thoughts. Complaining openly, the rank 5 player, Purpletaste, confesses he always wanted the game to fail, but now he feels the weight of the goodbye. Agreeing with the big guy, rank 4 Sword Emperor doesn't get why it went bankrupt since the game was so much fun. Annoyed with the busted system, rank 3 Keikaku Chicken recalls the time he took down a gigantic dragon and got a useless brick as a reward. Cutting through the chatter, the swordsman tells the masked guy to stop ruining what's left of the farewell vibe. Instantly looking for a fight, the hothead gets ticked off, while the other just sighs bored. Watching his teammates' childish squabble, our #1 stays silent. Finally breaking the silence, Kaiser admits that this whole situation is genuinely disappointing. In a total suck-up move, the big guy comments that it's understandable since the MC researched and lived the game more than anyone. To jog their memory, he praises the god-tier gameplay the kids showed off in battles. However, the masked guy quickly points out that the gods are fair, and the #1's luck has always been complete garbage. Like a running gag, they remember he hit the top of the rankings without a single legendary skill to his name. In full-on troll mode, rank 3 mimics the MC's cries of frustration after failing 10 enhancement attempts in a row. Unable to hold it in, the team agrees that when it comes to luck, Kaiser is a truly unlucky soul. Echoing through the virtual forest, their sincere laughter finally shatters the heavy, end-of-the-world mood. With an understanding smile, the swordsman declares he's never seen anyone so unlucky in his entire life. At that exact moment, a golden notice appears on the screen, thanking the warriors for staying until the very last second. Fading away into pixels of light, the big guy says his goodbyes, congratulating everyone on their insane effort. Right after, the swordsman and the masked guy also begin to disappear, marking the team's final farewell. Left completely alone in the vast, silent forest, our guy stares into the fire without blinking. Little by little, the virtual flames begin to crackle and lose their strength, until everything vanishes completely, leaving only the absolute void of disconnection. Quickly swallowed by a beam of blue light, Kaiser is finally ejected from the defunct server. On the dark desk in his room, we see the powered-down helmet, sealing the definitive end of the Demrock era. 2 long years pass since that day, and life in the big city carries on with its usual hustle. On the busy streets, the hectic routine of public transport rolls on smoothly. Sitting in the back of some random bus, 2 young guys are watching some mind-blowing gameplay on a phone. Totally impressed by the video, one of them comments on how the player defeated a demon lord all by himself. During their debate about the best current warriors, they mention the famous guild execution and its big shots. Next, they drool over the deadly skills of a solo player known as the Empress. Arguing over who would win in a fight to the death, the duo tries to remember some forgotten legend who could put these newbies in their place. Immediately, the name Kaiser, the unbeatable king of the old game, comes up as the supreme and mysterious combatant. With a smirk, his face hidden by his military cap, our very own MC overhears all the hype from right beside them. Ushering in a new era of glory, the spiritual successor to the failed game now dominates everything under the name God of Savior. Thanks to innovative mechanics, the RPG attracted way more users and became an unstoppable global phenomenon. With the promise of infinite freedom and exotic races, the system claims to be the definitive combat experience. Vowing to dominate this new world, former Sergeant Kang Do-yeon, our eternal Kaiser, declares that the true ranker is back. Arriving back at his apartment building under a scorching sun, the anxiety to play finally boils over. Desperate for some game time, he practically kicks down his front door, already yelling to know where his VR capsule is. With a sharp scolding, his sister points out that the nutcase barely took off his military boots and already wants to dive back into his addiction. From the back of the house, his mom grumbles that grown-up sons are nothing but trouble and don't care about family. Suddenly, the kid's eyes light up, and he freezes in the middle of the living room, mesmerized. Before him is a gigantic immersion capsule, and he can't even believe what his money bought. Not hiding his love for the equipment, he hugs the machine, thankful for every penny he saved in the barracks. As he runs his hand over the smooth, curved metal, our addict looks like a kid who just got his dream toy. With a soft click, the metallic door opens, inviting him to the new journey that awaits. Settling into the soft seat, he notices that even for a used model, the thing is seriously comfortable. Fitting the helmet onto his head with an eager smile, the time to return to the beatdown has arrived. After initiating the security system, lasers scan his retina in the blink of an eye. With his military ID validated, the program syncs the connection in just a few seconds. Projecting the sacred God of Savior logo across his full vision, the total immersion happens without a hitch. Inside a majestic, light-filled hall, the tutorial asks the recruit to create his avatar. Facing the virtual mirror, our guy checks out the standard beginner look, wearing only a towel. Bothered by his own face, the MC thinks the avatar has too much of a tired soldier vibe. Discouraged by the thousands of holograms with facial customization options, his laziness wins out. Tossing the fussiness aside, he accepts the base appearance and moves on to choosing a character name. With that unmistakable confident smile, he doesn't think twice before typing in the legend, Kaiser. After finishing the character creation, the system welcomes him with an exclusive hashtag and throws him straight into the tutorial. Launched directly into the hellscape of the Arlen Castle battlefield, the starting scenery is pure chaos and a city in flames. Impressed by the heat and the graphics of the flying sparks, he feels the blood start to boil in the virtual world again. Immediately, the panel flashes, demanding the newbie choose a weapon to survive the slaughter. Analyzing dozens of floating blue blades, the veteran instantly realizes there's no special equipment in the mix. Without wasting time on useless choices, he picks the basic shape to stay in his comfort zone. Wielding a simple iron sword, the guy admits this is all he's ever used since the old golden age of Demrock. After a few swings through the air to test the weight, our warrior already feels his muscle memory kicking in. Suddenly, the heavy footsteps of armor echo from the flames, and an NPC comes sprinting madly towards him. Yelling his head off, Knight Captain Charlie rudely questions what a darned recruit is doing just standing there. Without any warning, the knight grabs Kaiser's wrist with force and drags him straight to the front lines of the war. All of a sudden, the system flashes on the screen, confirming that Captain Charlie has formed a party with our guy for the battle. Running without looking back, the two of them charge through the castle courtyard, which is engulfed in raging flames. With a shocked look, the knight realizes the recruit is keeping up with the heavy pace of the run without breaking a sweat. Just ahead, the scene turns into a true nightmare, with fallen soldiers being brutally devoured in a dark corridor. Facing the carnage, the blonde guy deduces aloud that the rumors about the enemies making a pact with a monster are true. Not hiding his desperation, the captain warns that they need to hurry before that thing comes down for the real massacre. Picking up the pace on the stone stairs, the veteran swears they'll reach their objective in no time via that shortcut. Maintaining his usual absurd calm, our warrior just observes the path without a single word of fear. Suddenly, a lethal hum rips through the air, and a stray arrow flies towards the duo at the speed of light. The deadly projectile just barely misses, embedding itself in the wooden wall and scraping the captain's shiny armor. Sprouting from the corridor's shadows, a bizarre horde of hyena men completely blocks the passage, growling loudly. Violently drawing his blade, the knight prepares to carve a path with brute force, cutting them all down. But before the blonde guy can take a step, our MC shoots past him like a lightning bolt, heading straight into combat. With a roar of hatred, the first monster raises a rusty blade, trying to split the newbie in half without mercy. Focusing his cold, calculating gaze, the former server champ reads the creature's movement in slow motion, ready to counter. Terrified by the scene, the knight leader yells out a warning about the recruit's imminent danger. Sliding across the floor with absurd mastery, the guy dodges the fatal blow in a split second. In a perfect counterattack, the basic iron sword swings up, slashing the beast's chest in a clean, upward cut. Completely in shock, the creature's hairy eyes bulge, not understanding where the brutal hit came from. Gripping the hilt with both hands, the veteran ensures an absolutely firm hold for the next deadly strike. In a full-body spin, he finishes the beast with an insane diagonal cut that sends pixelated blood flying everywhere. Without losing his predatory focus, the player's eyes gleam in the darkness, thirsty for much more combat. Chaining together a deadly sequence of blue slashes, he slices through multiple enemies as if they were made of paper. Witnessing the live massacre, the remaining monsters back off a bit, letting out whimpers of pure terror as they retreat. Trying his luck, a brute leaps forward, aiming a downward smash with a sledgehammer straight at the kid's head. Holding his blade sideways, our hero parries the colossal weight of the club, sending thousands of sparks flying on impact. Taking advantage of the creature's completely open guard, a powerful knee strike explodes right into the beast's stomach. With the dry thud of the impact, the monster loses its breath instantly, and its defensive posture collapses as it falls to its knees. Drooling blood, the cornered beast learns the hard way that it messed with the wrong person on the battlefield. In the blink of an eye, the cold blade penetrates the darkness, tearing through flesh and sealing the fate of another hellish minion. Completely paralyzed by terror, the last two beasts tremble from head to toe, hesitating to attack. Locking onto his target once more, the former #1 ranker makes his final push, his boot cracking against the stone floor. Unleashing a giant arc of blue energy, the sword sweeps through both monsters from one end to the other in a single, perfect motion. With a master's touch, the character's military boots slide to a smooth, controlled stop. Rising up amidst a pool of destroyed bodies, the newbie reigns supreme in the now silent and clear corridor. With a quick flick of his wrist, he shakes the iron blade, flinging the excess blood from the sword's edge to the floor. A satisfied smile appears as he admits to himself that his virtual body is responding incredibly well. Walking back calmly, the player thinks to himself that his movements feel absurdly light and fluid. Completely dumbfounded, the blonde guy can't believe a simple recruit took out 5 brutish monsters all by himself. At that moment, the system dings on screen, announcing that Captain Charlie's affection for the guy is skyrocketing. Reflecting on the old mechanics, our MC suspects this new game is way too generous with reputation points. Now in full fanboy mode, the knight is talking crazy, calling the kid a reincarnated hero from ancient legends. With a cascade of notifications on his panel, the NPC's trust in the protagonist maxes out instantly. For this absurd feat in the tutorial, a rare title reward pops up on the interface, granting free extra stat points. Amused by this super useful situation, the masked hero celebrates mentally while his partner celebrates the victory in the war. Aiming firmly at the double wooden door, the captain declares that all they have to do is take out the sorcerer inside to win. Suddenly, a sinister purple aura leaks from the cracks, making the veteran panic and warn that the ritual has already begun. Macabre screams echo down the hall as a dark portal full of red eyes promises to spit out even worse abominations. Taking a heroic defensive stance, his partner vows to hold off the horde outside while the kid storms the boss room. Thanks to their newly maxed out affinity, the NPC smiles proudly, saying he trusts the newbie with his own life. Enveloped in a glorious golden light, the knight begs for the blessings of the ancient castle to protect the new hero on his mission. Yelling, the side character charges back into the heart of the inferno, drawing all the monsters' attention away from the door. Totally lost by this bizarre scene, the former king of the server blinks twice, not understanding the sudden change in attitude. Searching his memory for the tutorial video on his phone, he remembers clearly that the captain himself was supposed to charge in first. Facing the corrupted door, our warrior concludes that the dynamic choice system really does change everything drastically. With a firm, decisive step, the heavy boots step right onto the purplish force field, activating the stage's danger zone. Standing alone before the massive entrance to the lair, the mood shifts abruptly, weighing down the entire virtual atmosphere on the MC's back. Soon, a lethal warning flashes on the screen, informing him that only one person can enter at a time, and getting taken out will result in the seal being completely broken. With the smile of someone who just found a treasure chest, the kid realizes he's activated the most secret route possible right off the bat. According to the server's golden rules, these famous hidden pieces are extreme missions that guarantee divine prizes for those who survive. Faced with the entry confirmation prompt, the MC doesn't hesitate, confirming that he'd never run from a bonus this valuable. Upon pressing the yes button, the heavy hall doors swing wide open, swallowing the player into a corridor of absolute darkness. Inside the chamber, the sorcerer boss begs for mercy as he's crushed against the wall by the colossal creature he himself summoned. Acting like a whip full of sharp spikes, the tail of an enormous monster swings, breaking the surrounding stones. Observing the bizarre shadow, our veteran's eye widens slightly as he recognizes the deadly features of that beast. Chains of black steel stretch and snap across the hall, forcibly holding the body of the heavily breathing abyssal beast. Illuminated by a crimson aura, the panel reveals the feared Ironblood demon dragon of pure legendary rarity on the screen. Even sweating with tension before the colossal monster, the former #1 lets out a nervous, excited laugh at its classification. As expected, the new title mercilessly inherited the deadly ranking system of its forgotten predecessor. Bringing back the brutal hierarchy, the categories continue to separate the weaklings from the gods, from normal rank all the way to legendary. Separated by auras of power, the luminous seals confirm that this fight is set at the absolute peak of the entire game's difficulty. To heighten the tension, the system reminds him that beasts with proper names are known to wipe out entire armies with a single breath. Revolting against its magical prison, the dark lizard flexes its scaly neck muscles, snapping the restraints with sheer hatred. With a deafening roar that shakes the virtual walls, the beast spits a wave of red energy, suffocating the oxygen in the room. Dominating the scene from end to end, the colossal dragon focuses its primordial hatred right on our guy, who is now fighting for his life. Just from the creature's roar, the system dings, drastically cutting the MC's physical stats, causing his movement, speed, and defense to plummet instantly. Pressed by the crushing aura, the guy curses the developers as lunatics, claiming they don't have a shred of conscience. Luckily, the thick chains show that the beast's magical abilities are sealed, giving him a faint spark of hope for survival. But just looking at the bizarre size of the lizard's front paw makes it clear that a single hit means instant game over, no second chances. With a nostalgic smile, the veteran remembers going through this exact kind of suicidal mess all the time back in the old game. Against giant bosses of the past, his battle memory tells him there's only one possible choice to win. With the iron blade now glowing with a strong blue light, our warrior declares that the rule of this room is take down or be taken down. Focusing his vision with the calculation of a true predator, the recruit mentally prepares for the imminent slaughter. Almost instantly, the beast attacks with blind fury, forcing the swordsman to dodge a brutal tail swipe that shatters the castle floor. Landing softly on the crushed stones, his military boots don't lose balance for a single moment. Without retreating an inch, the basic sword clashes directly against the beast's iron scales, creating a blinding explosion of sparks. Furious at the audacity of that insignificant insect, the dragon lets out a completely deafening roar of pain and hatred. After the violent clash, the former number one slides back and plants his feet firmly, bracing against the impact's recoil without falling. Amidst heavy breathing, the sweat of tension finally trickles down the guy's face, proving the pressure of the fight. Immediately, the creature follows up with another colossal charge, smashing the floor, but our protagonist's defense parries the blow at his body's limit. Thanks to the monster's own violent momentum, the fighter leaps backward, gaining a safe distance in the virtual air. Inside his sharp mind, the veteran's internal calculator is already working overtime, coldly analyzing every one of the aberration's attack patterns. Facing the boss's absurd health bar that hides the numbers, the math is terrifying, showing a meager 120 damage after 2 perfect hits. To the surprise of absolutely no one, he laughs to himself, agreeing with the game forums that this difficulty really is the worst possible level. Even with the entire internet swearing this tutorial wasn't made to be beaten, our hero charges forward, slashing the air with heavy blows. While newbies cry in fear on social media, admitting miserable failure, the MC's blade continues to hammer the lizard's skull without mercy. In a spectacular sequence of swift movements, the fury of the blue slashes doesn't give the bloody boss a single second to breathe. With impact explosions bursting throughout the hall, the MC's divine persistence humiliates all the cowards who were eliminated without even trying to fight. On the global forum pages, chaos erupts when the interface notifies everyone that the monster's name has suddenly changed. Utterly shocked, the stunned community panics, speculating if some level 1 lunatic managed to defeat the tutorial's god. Inside the sealed dungeon, the reality is plain and simple, with the abomination collapsing after the final blow shatters its armored forehead. In its last miserable seconds of life, the dark beast lets out a ragged scream that shakes and cracks the remaining walls of the room. Unable to withstand the MC's continuous punishment, the carcass finally dissolves into millions of red pixels, deleted from existence. Leaning on his own sword to catch his breath, the hunter curses the dragon for being stubborn as a flood of legendary prizes overwhelms his display. Marked by virtual scratches and pure sweat, the insane victorious smile etched on his face proves that the king never lost his crown. Looking at the scene melted by the beatdown, the MC realizes the scale of his achievement and admits that this was indeed the first time anyone had taken down the legend. As he sheathes his weapon, logic immediately deduces that not even the super big shots from the Great Guild execution had accomplished such a feat. In his savvy mind, a comical image appears of his old partners cursing the tutorial as garbage and foaming at the mouth for not being able to pass. With a strong hit of nostalgia, our little MC wonders with a smile if his old Demrock buddies are doing well now. Suddenly, the system's sign glows brightly, offering the unprecedented title of First Slayer, unlocking traits based on actual deeds. Like a rigged casino slot machine, the interface spits out a gigantic list of passive talents that were just completed all at once. Shocked by the absurd shower of rewards, he nearly widens his eyes upon seeing the op item Eye of Truth drop for free in the middle of it all. Analyzing the server's patterns, the guy grumbles that a beginner's normal life is to farm and get only one measly skill at the start. According to the official rulebook, this special trait system determines almost all the raw power the character will carry into the future. As a law of the game, the rarity of these passives scales heavily, depending entirely on the size of the suicidal miracle the madman pulled off. Amazed by its tremendous utility, he notices the Master of Arms passive boosting his overall stats and completely blocking any negative effects on his account. But the detail that really takes the ex-military man's breath away is the isolated golden square shining majestically in the final corner of the menu. With the ultra-rare unique tag, the coveted Eye of Truth grants the broken privilege of seeing secret things and ignoring system walls. Thinking strategically to not get his hopes up too quickly, the titles of Master and Hero are great, but they are far from being totally exclusive. Due to the sheer viciousness of the competitive scene, the high-ranking corporate rats surely already monopolize these basic enhancements. But the infamous Eye of Truth changes all the rules by existing solely and exclusively for him, with no pirated copies scattered throughout the entire server. Unable to contain that huge grin, the hunter celebrates his massive luck and insane earnings in his first few minutes logged in. To make things even more op, the newly acquired legendary tag provides bonus damage to all leader-type monsters and infinite stacking of strength and agility. During a long stretch of his sore arms, the eternal unlucky guy from the first game gives a laugh of relief, thankful to finally be carried by divine luck. Immediately, a slow creak of heavy metal cuts through the quiet, forcing our warrior to turn his neck, alert for surprise ambushes. After the dungeon doors open, Captain Charlie collapses to his knees in the dust, crawling and breaking all the barriers of a tutorial character. With teary eyes from so much emotion, the NPC can barely form words, shocked as he stares at the toxic smoke left in the area where the boss disappeared. With slow steps and showing no shock, the MC crosses the room towards the poor soldier, who is on the verge of a nervous breakdown from so much pent-up joy. Standing like a statue with relaxed arms, the kid just watches the drama unfold, a question mark popping over his head, not understanding the reverence. With terror choked in his thin voice, the blonde guy questions, repeating the question if that simple adventurer alone massacred the castle's plague. Due to the grotesque lack of blood and deep cuts on the other's clothes, the commander freaks out, noticing that such a deadly danger didn't even mess up a single hair on his ally. Before the typical sarcastic reply or masterly fabrication, the veteran raises his hand, cutting him off, claiming that his awesome past is irrelevant. In a ready-made, cliched NPC speech about dark times and light at the end of the tunnel, the sermon praises the MC as the reincarnation of divine justice itself. With zero patience for the tragic and emotional theatrics, the guy watches the spectacle with a beautiful look of indifference, like someone who wants to skip the cutscene. With full and fervent shouts, Charlie's voice swears upon the filthy ground that he himself will ensure that this ray of light eradicates the darkness from now on. In an exaggerated formal bow worthy of the great ancient kings, the blonde guy lowers his head, begging for the mercy to fight in the shadows for the untouchable hero. Like a desperate contract request sealed in stone, the system shoots up a window informing him that accepting the devotion will yield real benefits for the account. Seeing the weight of the holographic screen flying right at his eye, the protagonist is shocked by the deep mechanic, having the rare chance to tame a legendary captain so early. But the system's big cold shower hits the door, informing him that the entire tutorial is a recreation and that warrior, unfortunately, is already ancient dust. Frustrated with the useless loss of a real bonus, our MC just presses yes on the screen and accepts the empty formality out of simple, pure pity for the AI's feelings. With the official oath sealed without ceremony, the NPC fighter's battered body lets go of its melancholic glow with a satisfied smile. Before the well-deserved peace of the warrior slowly disintegrating into pure particles, the ex-sergeant's invisible burden lightens as a promising new path opens up. Right after the absolute calm, a monstrous beam of energy descends through the roof, announcing that the mass teleport to the main city has begun. Fiercely devouring every remaining piece of debris from that macabre place, the walls dissolve, erasing the initial event from the master program's memory itself. Amidst the hyperfast floating sparks of hyperspace, a final muffled call from his former partner echoes through the speed, crying out for the official sovereign. In a shimmering, transparent form floating near his protective chest, the freed soul of Arlen's captain smiles amicably, asking what the next deadly stop will be. With the ironclad conviction that only those who have sat on the server's throne carry, the answer cuts through the luminous passage, overflowing with pure, unbreakable focus. Without much thought and maintaining the classic cool protagonist format with that striking side smile, the path is sentenced by the very voice of danger. Faced with millions of choices in the giant expanded universe, the final course of that long night will be to explore and set fire exactly where pure chaos reigns mercilessly. Satisfied with the perfect answer molded to warlike customs, the shining figure disappears into smoke, completely obeying the order of the new Supreme Reaper of Darkness. In the middle of bluish hyperspace, the countdown to the base city quickly decreases on the virtual panel. Suddenly, a shining gauntlet appears floating in the void, offering one last gift of loyalty from the deceased captain. With a small silver necklace now in his palm, our protagonist ends the space jump with a flourish. On the gigantic screen, the Allies' ghost thanks him emotionally for the salvation, while the notice of entry into the Pantheon shines brightly. Landing in a colossal, gleaming divine hall, the system congratulates the recruit with a text about choosing the path of the gods. The jump quickly stabilizes, and the surrounding scenery takes shape, showing pillars of light supporting the absurdly high ceiling. Holding the inherited cord firmly, the small red gem blinks, reminding the player of the weight of the promise made in the tutorial. Storing the magical item in his inventory, the fighter's sharp eyes focus on the new mandatory step to define his own class. Under the ghostly blessing that vanishes into digital dust, the final portal spits the warrior into the heart of the sacred mountain. Observing the colossal statues and the divine architecture of the place, the kid mutters that he has finally arrived at the server's much-talked-about gacha room. For those who know the game, that majestic hall is nothing more than a brutal casino disguised as a divine temple. With infinite shining panels, the rule is simple. The player draws a patron god and receives a class linked to the divine power pulled. Explaining the heavy hierarchy, the system reveals that the gods are divided into three groups, starting with the minor deities from fables. In second place are the ancient heroes, brutish warriors who became legends and ascended to the heavens through strength. Finally, the top of the food chain belongs to the gods of myths who shaped past eras. Within the supreme royalty, the system mentions heavy hitters like Zeus and Odin ruling the most op level of the virtual Russian roulette. Observing the flood of floating cards covering the temple's infinite ceiling, the guy sighs, recognizing that the chance of getting junk is colossal. Aware of his own historical bad luck, he grumbles that he won't get his hopes up for a big win just to avoid getting mad again. But at that exact second, the hunter's eyes gleam, fixed on a single golden card hidden among the sea of common silver cards. Thanks to the insane tutorial reward, the divine passive Eye of Truth activates instantly, tearing through the hidden secrets of the game's matrix. His eyes widening in pure shock, it dawns on him that the rule-breaking system just handed him the pot of gold for free. Regaining his composure, the player smirks maliciously, realizing he can now literally hack the gacha room by choosing the perfect prize. In his distant memory, his old partner's mean jokes teasing his rotten luck echo like annoying ghosts from the past. Ignoring the memories, the former number one declares that with this busted power in his hands, returning to the throne is just a matter of time. Taking a deep breath to lower the adrenaline of the moment, his heart pounds in his chest, trying to contain the absurd excitement. With his hand extended towards the lights, the plan now is to hunt only the golden cards, ignoring the useless junk around them. Firmly pulling the first mythic reward, the warm energy of the deity overflows, illuminating the kid's face with the promise of pure strength. To the MC's surprise, the panel reveals none other than Tyr, the brute known as the one-armed god of the sword. Celebrating a myth-level pull on his first try, the guy's smug smile almost rips his face from so much confidence. However, the joy is short-lived as a red error message flashes in his face, summarily rejecting the class due to a lack of affinity. Utterly perplexed by the rejection from the supreme god himself, Tyr's demonic avatar shows a confused frown at the connection failure. Not understanding the notice about not having created a vessel, the kid mutters in annoyance that he's never seen such a bizarre rejection before. Replaying the facts in his mind, he freezes mid-thought with the word vessel hammering in his head like a warning sign. According to forum logic, defeating the demon lord's minion should have triggered a visit from the goddess of revelation to shape the player's soul. But since the madman decided to go and slice up the hidden dragon instead of following the basic script, the goddess event simply never happened. Frustrated, he checks his own attributes screen, and his headache worsens upon seeing that his character is stuck in the useless initial class of adventurer. Facing the harsh reality of his own hasty mistake, the panel mocks him by showing the lack of divine stats on his record. With a hand on his hip and his patience wearing thin, the guy curses the situation as garbage, wondering how on earth he's going to fix this hole in the system. After all, with that broken, generic body, any god he draws will just spit on him and deny the affiliation without mercy. Totally frustrated after pulling a billion mythic cards in vain, the former king sits on his knees on the floor, tossing his sword aside like a newbie loser. Desperate about his blunder, he considers deleting the account, but remembers the stupid 60-day lockout penalty before he can recreate the character. Just as depression hits and the screen seems to offer no way out, a bizarre, isolated gleam completely captures his tired eye's attention. In a discreet crack between the temple steps, a scarlet card shines intensely, ignored by the newbies. Extending his trembling fingers towards the vibrant red gem, the player admits he's never heard of a red rarity on the entire server. As soon as his skin touches the item, a murderous red aura explodes, freeing the forgotten adventurer Cassiar, locking the MC in place. Feeling the power overflow like a volcano in his veins, his hunter's eyes spark with excitement, certain that this red aberration is another hidden piece. In a final burst of crimson energy, the interface beeps wildly, christening the kid with the secret class Final Adventurer. According to the broken description of the unique passive, this rule breaker allows the user to use absolutely all skills without any rank or guild restrictions. With a confident smile, the strategist instantly figures out that no matter what weapon he picks up, the system will accept his strike as that of a natural expert. Visualizing the infinite array of spells, heals, and brute attacks on the horizon, the idea of creating an impossible build makes his stomach churn with pure anxiety. Focusing on the main power, the kid declares that by combining this class with the Eye of Truth, farming secret spells will be ridiculously easy. Putting the pieces of the virtual meat grinder together, the Master of Arms passive covers the gap, leaving the character officially with no apparent weaknesses. Enveloped in a storm of green data, the mandatory transfer from the boring temple to the open map swallows the newly created monster. With that famous macabre smile shining on his face, the MC's unshakable confidence boils, promising to tear through everyone on his way to the top once again. Immersing himself in a sea of blue digital lights, the target is already locked and sealed in his mind, obsessed with ranking up, even if it means going to heck and back. Landing directly in the City of Beginnings under a blazing sun, the chaotic noise of thousands of people talking loudly floods his sensitive ears. In the crowded square, noobs are whining in the corners, complaining about the terrible RNG of the gacha while trying to find work in the virtual fields to pay the bills. Walking right past the collective depression, two men in suits with shady faces are looking for easy prey among the disoriented newcomers. Complaining openly, the guild recruiters think the place is a real dump, full of useless losers with no combat future. Even with nice badges and smooth talk, deep down, these suited guys are treated by the community as nothing more than annoying street pamphleteers. Pressed by the lack of decent members, one of the recruiters rubs the back of his neck, whining that his boss will have his hide if he doesn't meet the monthly quota. Pausing mid-rant, his partner nudges him, pointing out an isolated and suspicious figure walking slowly through the crowded square. But upon noticing the depressed, zombie-like face of our MC staring at his own interface and drooling with silent joy, the guys ignore him, calling the kid a total nutjob. Turning their backs on the bizarre virtual beggar, the pair of idiots lets the greatest living legend of the server slip away for free. Oblivious to the real world, the guy remains paralyzed, staring at the attribute window of the precious blue necklace he received in the tutorial as a divine memento. Dumbfounded by the hefty magic resistance and absurd defense passively gained from the hero rank necklace, his internal freakout almost escapes his lips. As if sinking into a pot of warm honey, the unlucky veteran's soul revels in the excess of divine privileges raining down on his head all at once. Suddenly, a golden quest panel shines, ordering the mass extermination of 40 goblins in the nearest forest to unlock the city gates. Noticing dozens of beginners celebrating and yelling about not having to wait in stupid party-finding queues, the square's atmosphere becomes genuinely euphoric. Climbing onto a crate in the middle of the crowd, A chubby dwarf, bellowing like a drill sergeant, orders the general slaughter of the green pests scattered throughout the woods. Right below, groups start yelling in desperation, hunting for any leftover trash tier class just to fill the mandatory member count before the deadline. Observing the desperate mob just inches away, our lone MC coldly analyzes the scene, keeping his hands quietly in his pockets. In the blink of an eye, a smiling and cheerful archer jumps in front of the ex-sergeant, amicably inviting the lone wolf to the group of nice noobs. Trying to entice the bizarre newbie, the blonde kid promises a nice XP bonus if they join forces, while his cleric teammate just nods shyly, confirming the offer. Coldly pondering the stupid idea of carrying dead weight on his back, the veteran stares at the innocent newbies, mentally calculating the absurd loss of this forced partnership. Coldly analyzing the invitation, the MC knows that group XP hunting makes leveling up easier, since the divided team bonus multiplies the profit in the long run. Without a second thought and a bored expression, he agrees to form the little clique, seeing the name Kaiser shine at the bottom of the group tab. The archer notices the nickname right away and asks, amazed, if the bizarre newbie is some die-hard fan of the legendary old player from Demrock. Convinced of his own deduction, the blonde kid swears that only a crazy fan would have the guts to steal the coveted ranker's name to use. Mentally laughing at their cluelessness, our warrior just nods, confirming the fake story without revealing he's the living legend himself. Excited, the little girl in the group raises her staff, vowing that the crew will reach level 12 before the sun sets in the forest. Confirming the motivational vibe, the lone hunter raises his fist in the air, faking maximum joy in the middle of the pack of newbies. Already in the hunting zone in the middle of the dense woods, the guy with the shield lands a heavy shoulder check, disorienting a green goblin instantly. Orders rip through the air as the defender dictates a synchronized attack, taking advantage of the monster's second of mental confusion. Following the swift command, the blonde guy shoots a shining arrow straight at the creature's face, while the healer summons a basic blue energy beam from the rear. In a decent sync for newcomers, the consecutive hits destroy the creature's HP, slicing it in half on the wet grass. However, as soon as the first carcass falls, 3 angry reinforcements jump from the trees, grinding their teeth as they charge the newly formed clique. Advancing like mad animals with makeshift scythes, the green beasts go for revenge for their fallen comrade without mercy. In a jolt of pure adrenaline, the shield guy plants his boots in the dirt and raises his defense to his face, preparing for the brutal smash. From the back of the clearing, the little girl screams in panic, fearing her protector friend's instant demise against the trio's onslaught. Taking the violent blow with all his might on his shoulder, the makeshift tank yells his lungs out, telling them not to let the target escape the crossfire. Stuck on his own arrow's cooldown, the archer cries in frustration, confessing that his skills haven't recharged yet. In a silent and lethal leap over the big shield guy, a sharp shadow emerges in the sky like a blade flying from the darkness. His eyes widening in shock, the defending boy watches the blur zip past, tearing through the air straight towards the bizarre enemy's rear. Suddenly, the green beast in front freezes in place, as its killer instincts signal that the Reaper has just appeared behind its skull. In a devastating blink of an eye, the sword crosses the terrain, spraying the creature's crimson blood as its head rolls off its neck in silence. Due to the bizarre fluidity of the slow-motion movement, the second blow arcs upwards, shredding the accompanying monster's chest with the same cold cadence. Dazzled and utterly terrified by the absurd scene, the shield leader's jaw locks as he sees the clean technique sweep the plague from the forest. Beside the battlefield, the two kids watch in an absolute trance the show of brutality from a single generic soldier cutting virtual meat. Without wasting a single breath, Kaiser lands firmly on the ground, completing the perfect horizontal arc and letting the corpses disappear behind him. Cleaning the blade with the flicking motion taught in the old days, he turns his calm face, declaring a lightning-fast victory in the woods. Finally, the decapitated body of the last goblin melts in the purple and blue light of the takedown notification, as bonuses pop up wildly on the screen. Snapping out of his shock, the blonde kid wakes up, yelling praises for the newbie, declaring that the guy is absurdly good at the art of clean slicing. Without losing his pose and ignoring the emotional applause, our lone wolf stylishly sheathes his iron blade, ready for the next target. Laughing awkwardly to break the ice of pure admiration, the big defender extols the swordsman's disproportionate agility in front of everyone. Blindly believing in the success of the super-boosted clique, the blonde boy oozes confidence, swearing that with this monster slicing everything, the mission will be too easy. Completely killing the vibe from the shadows, the shield guy turns his neck in total shock, stammering desperately to alert the team. Sprouting like weeds from the dark depths of the woods, a gigantic horde of green goblins begins to form an angry wall against them. Armed with dirty daggers, rotten arrows, and sharp teeth, the dozens of beasts roar in fury, demanding blood in a deafening macabre chorus. Recognizing the brutal and merciless carnage coming their way, the cowardly leader orders a retreat at the top of his lungs, assuming they're all going to have a bad end. Turning his back completely on the fast-approaching enemy pack, the blonde guy yells for the MC to follow or he'll be turned into mincemeat if he stands there out of foolish pride. Raining down splinters from the sky onto the trees without mercy, the enemy front line raises wooden spears, aiming for the isolated target's chest. To the sheer visual panic of his fleeing companions desperately sprinting through the woods, our crazy hero launches his boots against the rocks, leaping towards the complete massacre. Staring at the crimson shadow stained by pure murderous intent against the clear sky, he cracks a wide smile, hoisting the heavy sword over his shoulder. With memories of a time when he wiped out mountains of worse monsters invading his own head, the legend entertains himself while ignoring the vain pleas. Soon he mentally prepares the brutal smite skill that shatters skulls before crashing down right in the middle of the macabre crowd. Recalling the words of old companions in similarly insane moments on the original server, questioning if he was a fighting cock who only knew how to pick suicidal fights without thinking of the odds. Flashing back to the past in his mind just a second before the imminent clash of the sword, the big guy from his other life argues why jumping straight into the abyss seems like absolute insanity. With the clear image of enormous demonic bosses roaring out of nowhere against a totally unprepared group on a hostile map, the fear on the brute's face was genuine. Smiling at the memory with a bloodied and bruised face, leaning on his shattered staff, the veteran of chaos just grumbles back that he survived the carnage the same way in the end. Confirming with a grimace, the giant partner grumbles in agreement with the ridiculous success, but stresses the stupid danger of that isolated act. Back in the noisy plane of the present moment, the maddening hum of the screaming monsters interrupts Kaiser's daydream, demanding immediate and maximum concentration on the imminent battle. Seeing the bloodthirsty horde of disgusting, drooling creatures with their twisted faces stretching out, trying to grab the player's fresh meat on the grass, his reasoning aligns. Perfectly understanding the fear in the eyes of the weak kids who were running and screaming at his back, begging for mercy to escape. Even the cowardly blonde kid insisted, whining from the back, while the warrior's figure continued the deadly and stubborn charge towards imminent destruction without trembling for a second. Affirming in his head once and for all that yes, the memories said fighting was suicidal, he assures himself he had never thrown himself headfirst into certain doom in his own life. In the next moment, the avatar flies dangerously over the skinny, hideous bodies, already wielding the blade ready for the initial strike of the bloodbath. Accelerating in the air, the iron sword seethes, covered in a brilliant crimson fire, tearing through the vision of the beast leading the center before the fatal impact. Behind the tranquil clearing in the silent woods, the deadly rays seem to cut even the startled skies with the sudden explosion that takes over. Immediately, the interface dings the completion of brutal smite, opening a destructive rift that tears through dozens of square yards of earth and reaps the clustered monsters in the middle like cut grass. Confirming a critical hit on a pile of stacked and eliminated bodies, the taskbar frantically updates the rampant slaughter in the green forest, staining the rocks with sweat on the bloody forest floor, with green goblins exterminated by the bucket load. After the dust settles, his cold eyes focus precisely on one last cowardly creature hidden in the shadows, aiming a poisoned dart straight at his back, attempting a counterattack. In a swift jump to the dirt ground, his black boots skate, sliding to clear the dead weight of the massive attack, ready to finish the area's game of cat and mouse. Before even pulling out the poisoned blowgun, the isolated shooter swallows a scream of fear as a flying blade breaks his aligned legs before his weak shot can be fired. Finishing with pure killer cunning, he slashes three at once at high speed, decapitating the last archer in blind desperation, planting the shining blue tip in the grass and perfectly executing the fatal circular swing. Trembling in terror, the little green monster tries to swallow his blowgun, shaking, before feeling the darkness approaching at a rapid pace from the nearby shadows. Without pity, the cutting fury tears the green flesh, splitting the ugly creature as if it were absolutely nothing, sealing the fate of the cowardly souls left from the macabre pack by their outstretched roots. Right after the traits panel flashes in his face, activating the limit break known as Overcome, increasing all bonus bars in a strong orange explosion that rises through his sweaty hair instantly. Filled with adrenaline, the fighter defends against a dirty blow, locking the big beast's arm behind its back, while his blade holds the sharp nails still, almost cracking his own spine from behind in a heroic, brutal act in the clash of weapons exposed in the orange half-light of the screams of the fight on the firm ground, heavily planted, and the survival of the raw animal moment of hand-to-hand combat with knives, with no defense around that living green courtyard. Destroyed and full of scars from past battles under the drops of hot, sparkling blue magic jumping through the still, silent woods, watching the end of the small army turn to digital sand to the sound of the last strangled, silent cry from the sliced, dry throats losing their lives in a second. Crazed roars crackle in the minds of the wounded, the rest of the beasts seeing their end right there in the shining, sharp, heavy hand, going to slash the necks of the short-lived system's lives once and for all, erasing with deadly pain the last entire group standing there waiting with no resistance. Like a lethal demonic ballet of straight cuts, the enemies fall one after another, disemboweled by the sharp blue aura in the middle vanishing like smoke before their ugly bald heads hit the ground, rolling heavily into the smooth mud drowned in the stinking dead blood melting from the red pixels left to their fate in the dead virtual alleys, full and covered by the deep marks of paws and shallow blue cuts, completely losing hope fleeing the clean carnage. Spinning on the tip of his boot in a flawless acrobatic move, the dust and wind swirl together in a dirty motion, the mud being kicked up, raising an opaque wall to blind the combat against any surprise chance from behind, hiding in a weak trick in the desperate, furious defense of the newbies getting beaten. Cornering the next dumb beast, the charge turns into a low cut to the leg, which gives way with a crack at the same time, hitting the ground with a horrible grunt, silently begging the moonless sky for mercy, whimpering for the help of tortured souls, asking for a quiet end in the isolated swamp cut by the cold evil of a lethal sport hunt unleashed through the lost digital lines with the hot sword whizzing in the furious air, spinning the circle of the wheel of swift death. Swallowing the slow monsters falling sliced like rotten potatoes in the soft, wet mud smelling of herbs and dirty, viscous, bloody iron. Exploding sparks upwards, the MC blocks a crude club from above, pushing with pure rage, shoving the enemy's filthy, flabby, disgustingly drooling face into the smooth rocks of the mountain to the right, off the map, falling dazed and dizzy to lose his last breath on the ground and blacking out on the heavy impact against the breaking stones. Thundering cold fury in his sharp, shining eyes ready to take down without mercy, the deadly gaze locks on the opponent's ugly, bulging face before the rusty hatchet is definitively broken in his hand with a clean, snapping blow, a crushing sound grinding all the bones and a deafening, dry crack from the strong fist descending in fury. Retaliating at the speed of light, the blades sink in and spray digital leaders without mercy, covering the silent boy's clothes in dirty blood, focused on sweeping away the sad leftovers agonizing there, asking for the end, tearing the easy, loose tendons of the skinny brutes trembling there weakly, praying for a miracle that never comes without respite from the unleashed, furious butcher, taking out the weak in his path, tearing through the brush. With all restrictions erased, the kid instantly gets it, pulls the useless little knife from his black pants leg, and with the Master of Arms passive transforms the joke into a perfect surgical instrument, exploiting easy openings without even trying to make an effort and an extra light blow to the ribs without fear, with class and deadly charm opening a perfect black hole sucking the weak life out, laughing at the futile small cowardice without stopping for a single breath. Advancing heavily, the soles of his thick boots cracking the stray pebbles scattered in the bushes with broken, pained grass, vanishing in a brilliant red from the earth, spraying to the sides, sweat dripping on the low, dirty grass in a panic with no way out squeezed. With a single blow, he impales one up close, burying the dull blade straight into its neck, cracking its spine sideways without mercy, piercing the neck with a sharp, dry thud that stretches the drooling vein from its ugly head, stopping purple with blind terror, screaming crazily, losing life before vanishing into smoke, choked, falling crooked and mute without a single tear, torn, ruined for the tally of senseless numbers, as the dust settles and then lowers in silence. Reigning in dirty, isolated glory in the woods, the living legend rests his cold blade while the last, miserable opponent falls, taken out, screaming into the forgotten echo, vanishing and vanishing in the light breeze of that washed, deserted meadow with no warrior other than our Kaiser alone dominating everything. Striking firmly with the club, the weapon clashes violently with the magic, sending blue sparks flying everywhere. As if by a miracle, the Master of Arms passive kicks in, instantly erasing any equipment restrictions from the character. Right after, the MC slashes the green beast's chest in a swift upward cut, giving it no chance to defend. Terrified by the sudden bloodbath, the monster's eyes widen, drooling in pure desperation. Without any mercy, the dagger sinks straight into the creature's throat, spraying its life out in a dry slice. Spinning the heavy piece of wood, our guy smashes the next target's skull, sending it to the ground, knocked out. Activating the swing ability, the bluish blade splits the creature's body in half as if it were made of paper. With the screen popping notifications like crazy, the proficiency of all weapons levels up while the green army melts at the hero's feet. Staring at the pile of virtual corpses, he mentally celebrates not only for ignoring the class rules, but for being able to use the attacks right away. With that same maniacal smile, the kid admits the current situation is much better than he expected. In the background, the two newbies watch the total massacre, completely paralyzed with pure shock. Stuttering in disbelief, the big shield guy questions the gods if any of this makes sense. Even for super experienced groups, pushing it like that to hunt dozens of goblins would be extreme madness. But the lone hunter cleared the entire map by himself, without needing a single drop of healing magic from the team. Reading the username shining in bright red on the guy's back, it finally starts to dawn on the fearful companions. Still in total shock, the armored warrior wonders if that bizarre guy is the real, legendary Kaiser from the old Demrock era. He quickly shakes his head, laughing nervously and swearing that would be completely impossible. After all, the forums prove that the genius disappeared without a trace for 2 long years, and it would make no sense for him to pop up in a noob team today. Turning his face bathed in the late afternoon light, the mysterious swordsman stares at the weak party in absolute silence. Wiping his own dirty face, the veteran's soul vibrates internally, finding all that carnage way too sweet. Noticing the kid's psychopathic smile, the tank takes a step back, thinking the new swordsman is totally off his rocker. Ignoring the presence of the extras, the hunter's gaze focuses only on the glow of his own newfound power. Washing his hands in the brilliant energy, he quickly realizes that the monster's weapons disappear if they aren't real loot items. Satisfied with the practical tests, our protagonist confirms that bypassing the restrictions was the best move he made all day. Opening the holographic status window right after, the blue screen reveals that the account has already jumped to level 4 in just one hunt. Calculating his next deadly moves, the MC's strategy focuses on using the sword as his main source of damage. Thanks to his passive titles and the stolen necklace from the NPC Charlie, the character's other attributes are already well covered on his stat sheet. Running towards the hero of the match, the blonde kid praises him non-stop, calling the guy a wonderful and incredible marksman. Following his teammate, the shield leader sucks up, swearing loudly that Kaiser is simply the best warrior on the server. However, the big guy whispers to the archer that the real-world number 1 wouldn't be so quiet playing at a low level with them. Despite this strong doubt, the warrior admits that the insane combat style perfectly screams that he is the legend incarnate. Pounding his iron chest, the tank swears on his life that he would believe it in a heartbeat if someone confirmed the pro's identity. Giving a sheepish chuckle to play it off, the sly guy hides the absolute truth and plays dumb, scratching the back of his neck. Looking for some logic to justify the massacre, the leader asks if the newbie got lucky in a mythic-level gacha. With the straightest face in the world, the liar smiles, saying it's all thanks to his exclusive passives. Shocked by the guy's absurd luck, the big dude decides to suck up to ensure protection in the upcoming difficult stages. After the adrenaline of the massacre subsides, the group takes a deep breath, trying to recover their energy in the middle of the destroyed forest. With his stamina fully restored, the clique's leader already suggests drawing their weapons and getting back to the hunt immediately. Excited by the team's destructive firepower, the archer audaciously suggests pulling 10 monsters at once now. Laughing at the weak kid's audacity, our little MC accepts the suicidal idea without a second thought for safety. Full of false bravado and courage, the newbies charge forward screaming, blindly trusting the team's carry. With a dark glint in his eyes under his bangs, the Reaper just tells them to hurry up for the new round of blood. As the group gathers the prizes from the ground, a bunch of big shots appears out of nowhere, calling the team trash and demanding respect. Observing the intruder's annoying arrogance, the ex-sergeant mentally wonders what this scum's real intention is. Suddenly, a giant red urgent mission notice slashes across the screen, demanding the head of the dangerous mutant goblin warrior. Before a dark and scary cave embedded in the mountain, the group's final destination reveals itself menacingly. Breaking out in a cold sweat before the black stone hole, the newbies confess with trembling voices that their nerves are shot. Thanks to the rampant slaughter in the woods, they all proudly reached a solid level 9. However, the location's bloody legend terrifies everyone, as this bizarre dungeon has the absolute reputation of being the official beginner killer. On the community's social media, terror reigns, with people reporting that any tiny mistake inside means certain doom for the entire team. Cruelly known by veterans as the Tomb of Ard, none of this place's cursed nicknames bring any hope of victory. Compared to the weakling goblins scattered on the grass, the insane difficulty of this muscular boss is an incalculable abyss of brutality. To make the tense scenario worse, the battle demands millimeter-perfect team coordination to avoid a game over. With the combination of raw animal strength and the lethal punishment for mistakes, the stone entrance swallows the souls of the weak without mercy every day. Completely frustrated with the map's history, The group leader grumbles that he'd rather do this alone to not depend on someone else's screw-up. Clutching her little healing staff, the girl trembles at her core, agreeing that the fight deep inside will be way too tough for them. Trying to keep the party's morale up, the big guy warns that without clearing this quarry first, they can forget about any future raids. Agreeing with just a look, the veteran knows perfectly well that the whiny tank is absolutely right about this line of progression. Even outside the game, the big corporations require the seal of this completed mission, making cowards beg for cheats on the internet. Reading the pathetic messages on the global forum, it's clear that people would rather resort to cheating than break a sweat in the fight. Responding without mercy in the comments section, the older folks tell the whiners to quit because the well-known tactics don't work there. In the unbreakable rules of the virtual universe, everything is magically recorded in the glorious book of adventures forever. Whether unlocking new regions or crushing terrible bosses with their own hands, nothing escapes the divine record of the main system. Therefore, every millimeter of a combatant's movement is catalogued, forming the true history of those who actually have the courage to fight. Knowing that running or crying won't solve the block, the team's only real way out is to grit their teeth and march into the darkness. In the strategist's sharp mind, clearing this dungeon is mandatory to access the gates of the next city and follow the plan. With a heavy, firm step, the ex-sergeant's military boot cracks on the stone, marking his presence at the entrance of the dangerous lair. Shining in a floating, bright red hologram, the descriptions of the mutant's home give a macabre welcome to the four adventurers. Oozing a tranquility that borders on insanity, our hero smirks, calmly asking if they can just charge in already. Swallowing their tears and saliva, the newbies nod, confirming they've read the manual and promise to handle it without messing up in the fight. Positioned perfectly in front of the solid rock gate, a dense silence embraces the team before chaos erupts. Looking straight at the shield leader, the swordsman prods the big guy for action, who seems to have frozen in place from fear. For a few seconds that feel like hours, no one moves a single muscle before the closed doors of the lethal habitat. Waking from his terrifying trance, the shield bearer touches his hand to the holographic plate, taking on the task of starting things off. With the system's approval window flashing, the blonde kid yells at the top of his lungs, authorizing their definitive entry into the green hell. To confirm the team's blind courage, the little girl raises her staff, excited for the imminent danger. With an affirmative nod, our warrior agrees that the time to shed blood has finally come. Soon, the blue panel dings, validating the number of players and unlocking the entrance to the dark habitat. With a bizarre rumble of old gears, the stone gates open, revealing a corridor bathed in a sinister red aura. After cracking his neck, the ex-sergeant remarks that it's been a long time since his last dance and decides to use the fight just as a warm-up. Short, muffled footsteps echo through the dark tunnel as the tense troop advances toward the heart of the cave. Treading firmly on the damp, rocky ground, a heavy, murderous atmosphere dominates the air with every yard they cover. Rustic orange torches illuminate the hard rock walls, signaling that there's no escape button now. Deep inside the circular room, the macabre silhouette of the elite boss emerges, displaying an absurd 20,000 health points on the screen. Wielding a rusty cleaver bigger than a car, the mutant aberration growls with pure hatred, thirsty for fresh meat. With a ragged, thunderous roar, the beast raises its heavy blade to the heavens, ready to split the first noob in half. Under the protection of his dented iron, the big guy of the group breaks into a cold sweat, asking aloud if this is still just a safe little game. Cutting through the cowardly team's drama, our MC yells an immediate warning that the derailed train is already coming at them with no brakes. Leaping incredibly high, the monster blocks the entire view of the ceiling, aiming the colossal weight of a brutal smash to obliterate them all. With nowhere to run in such a short time, the tank grits his teeth, accepting that not even the new hunter's magical techniques will save the weak from the deadly shock. Quickly, the logic of survival hits the newbie, realizing that one guy alone in the dark can't provide cover for the entire scattered team. Determined to honor his own defensive role once and for all, the clique's leader plants his boot in the dirt, setting a firm base. Drooling fury from his crooked teeth, the disproportionate goblin dives from the ceiling like a lethal meteor. Yelling the right order at the top of his lungs, the warrior snaps them out of their paralysis, telling everyone to scatter across the map fast. In a brutal clash with the smooth ground, the creature's impact shatters the battlefield, raising a thick, opaque dust cloud. Frantically searching his memory, the guy remembers the old forum tips stating that the charge is the beast's basic move. Without a single second to breathe, the pest breaks through the dust cloud, colliding its heavy, rusty sword directly against the edge of the scratched shield. Thanks to the perfect block, the giant loses its bearing, getting dizzy for a mere 2 seconds while the kid signals the opening of the attack window. Receiving the clear command, the rear guard springs into action, blasting freezing rays and shimmering arrows that cut through the tomb's dark air. Bullseye, and without mercy, the spells explode on the boss's rigid scales, raising sparks of damage for the first time. But the long-range punishment seems to just tickle it, with the abomination quickly blinking its infernal eye and scowling again. With his stomach turning to ice, the defender desperately understands that their breathing room ended much earlier than expected. In a fluid and brutal motion, the cleaver arcs upward, trying to gut the target trapped in front of it. Contracting every muscle in his entire body, the tank's arm parries at the absolute limit of the impact, letting sparks blind the eyes around them. Enduring the insane torture of not being eliminated by the push, the frontline hero silently celebrates as he sees his life-saving protection passive absorb the entire blow. Overjoyed with his own tactical defensive posture, the leader confirms that his attributes double since the entire team stayed perfectly hidden behind him in combat. Far above the ground-level confrontation, our shadowy reaper is already descending onto the monster's back like a sharp bolt, pulling his cold metal for the takedown. Caught in a pure ninja-style sneak attack, the beastly minion lets out a sharp cry of pain, feeling the clean tear pierce its thick spine midair. In a devastating and well-focused sequence, more mystical explosions from the mage burst mercilessly, wiping out the rest of the elite monster's vision. Flashing a proud smile, the big shield guy declares the first phase under control, promising continued stability if everything keeps up this pace. Surprisingly, the ex-champion sharply warns him to get ready, as the creature's crazy pattern is about to go off script. Completely stunned, the guy checks the opponent's red aura, complaining that the rage mechanic activated without the exact 10,000 health needed to trigger it. Staring at the red numbers in disbelief, the newbie's mind freezes, seeing the threat's health plummet well below what was planned. Immersed in a destructive, unbridled fury, the giant kicks the floor, causing a tremor that threatens to bring the whole ceiling down on the four intruders' heads. But before the boss's impact can be lethal to the team, a flash of power descends, slicing the beast's entire side in a majestic, absurdly sharp cut of energy. Sending dark blood flying, the creature cancels the earthquake, crying out from the raw pain and losing its perfect position from the previous attack. From behind his own block, the metal boy watches, dumbfounded at his partner's solo spectacle, interrupting the raid's unbreakable mechanics with a single finger. Like a leopard landing on the grass after the hunt, Kaiser's boots meet the rocks with total tactical stability and seamless, assassin-like precision. Smiling at his terrified companions, his crazy eyes illuminated by the screen, he just points out that the ridiculous mechanic has now turned to dust. Cutting quickly to a remote past in a quiet meadow from the old days, a reporter asks why the guy's old group was considered the most op in history, destroying impossible dungeons in Demrock. With a hand on his chin, playing modest and with a stern face, the former number one lies, saying that everyone in there did their designated role perfectly without fail. Didactic to the core in the wide-open green fields, the reporter describes the holy trinity of perfect teams, based on a tank, a damage dealer, and the essential rear healer. Without fear of offending the living legend she's talking to on the bench, she drops the bombshell, asking how they wiped out the entire game's scum if they didn't bring a single defensive wall into the dangerous boss fights. Calmly agreeing while breathing the fresh air of the old server, our kid just confirms that tanking roles really do always matter when things get crazy hot and fast. Cranking his arrogance up to an absurd level with firm words and crossed arms, he lists the required basics, stopping the strong opponent's patterns and taking all the hits to the face, enduring heck so the damage dealers don't get wiped out. Cynical and cold, finishing the complex topic, he laughingly guarantees that he takes all the dungeon's hits on his own body, leaving the silly reporter with the microphone confused, not understanding the brutal, blind, suicidal concept just explained. With a soft smile closing the window of useless memories from the past, his sharp thoughts travel swiftly back to the dark, dirty heart of the cave in the truly chaotic present, right now slicing meat. With a sharp roar showing its torn, crooked, rotten tongue of pure, drooling, disgusting, and noisy hatred in the air, the pest swears to curse the meddlers who break its beloved, perfect rules of the bloody fairy house of stone and wet mud, hidden from the sun outside, isolated from the living server on the clean, sunny, good side. With bulging eyes, not closing his mouth for anything, scared and trembling, the extra commander of the scum squirms, unable to accept that this is happening so cleanly and dryly against the wild beast of the green, crazy, ugly apocalypse, isolated in the lonely ancient mountains, without any mercy for the lost band of easy, squeezed, first-time noobs. Marveling as he sees the shadow cut the light from back to front, the leader can't believe the madman is destroying every single programmed lethal combo using only heavy cuts without casting a single typical weak, paralyzing trap from the safe, cliched pattern taught by the dumb tutorials of the official cowardly network of bad players. To rub the absurdity in his own incredulous and trembling face, his mouth dry and bitter, he admits with fear that the savior of the match is performing a massive, focused service without having any shields on his body, enduring the full force of the pure impact. Ignoring the divine fame flying right there, bleeding live in the dark, blind mud, focused and irritated with the brute hatred of the dumb plague with giant arms, another swoop is attempted by the creature, charging forward, sweeping away trash, wanting revenge at any cost, stomping its feet. Dodging the paw swipe with the pure lightness of a sadistic, lethal dancer, without losing the blind, thin thread of the crazy game set up there as a real challenge in the toy world of digital bits without moral limits, loose in the virtual matrix. Unleashing an insane, lethal, relentless, endless hurricane, tearing the thick skin of the leftovers with pure blue streaks, definitively illuminating the cold, blind, focused, sliced pit throne falling on the cut, ruined floor, losing hope in arms full of useless holes, bleeding live red pixels in the dark steam there, dusty with dense, dirty air from the ugly, dirty, and forever closed mind of the final, purple, fallen, erased trash. Turning off everything from the light in the dead shadow of the short, final green life of a useless, dry, sliced, eliminated, chopped up, honorless pit boss. In the back of the safe line, far from getting hit or risking losing real items, crying with foolish, fake pride and applauding like feudal imbeciles, cheering to get the free spoils by tailing the super awesome Kaiser cutting cheap meat for free without limit, flying and playing at the blind speed of swift destruction. With a snap of dread tearing through the head of the trembling, cowardly tank there, retreated, scared, reading the panel in a lucid moment of pure chaos and adrenaline. The drastically shrinking red bar, melting the numbers of the wounded plague there, panting, roaring weakly from its heavy, hard-beating, tired chest. Life hits 20%, signaling impending tragedy for everyone present in the wrought and forgotten deadly nest closed in the giant, rocky, round trap. Yelling, dirty, and disheveled, ordering focus, the tank calls the troop to hold their tight nerves for the dark storm of the second stage of lethal programmed desperation with no shortcut, which starts by flooring it right now at the time of the risky double takedown, sweating rivers of dry, nervous tears on the verge of blind collective panic and a crooked, powerless scream. Sweat running down his forehead and holding the triggerless bow, trembling with cold, the hunter in the back bites his lips, hoping the beast doesn't focus its skinny back on the heavy magic of the deadly rotten lightning and come running fast to crush the newbie in a dirty, lethal leap, jumping far across the distance, covering the map in the next second. True to the relentless, haunting, red rules of living blood, the screen flashes with absolute fury, announcing the macabre, irreversible activation, unlocking the hidden, rotten, poisonous essence embedded in the history and filthy, disgusting class that the cowardly, ugly, green, stinking, angry, disgusting horned mutant passively and silently carries to heck to get its blind revenge, losing its way without mercy, tearing everything around it apart. With an infernal thud of its leather hide on the floor, the furious insignia lights up, locking in its brute warrior class, focusing insane, inhuman strength into its slimy veins. Enveloped in a sea of furious power and bathed in dark purple energy with lightning crackling in its hands, the aberration mutates into its most bizarre stage, unleashed in the purgatory arena. Preparing his boot for the violent shock, the veteran pulls his sheath, focused, quickly realizing that the blind, stupid, chaotic peak of the programming has finally broken, exploding with pure red rage, rapidly hitting the ceiling of merciless strength. Playing fair on the system's holographic interface, legends gain a surprise random lottery ability, ensuring no one can copy a miracle recipe from the tacky guides scattered across public chat without suffering hidden surprise damage meant to grind down inexperienced players who read manuals and run away. Among the desperate people who get taken out, the plague of a passive, nicknamed in the fearful underworld, is affectionately and tearfully known as the infamous Deadly 007 with a bullet in the chamber, endlessly spinning for the sucker team to fall limp and stiff without an honorable fight with class without shallow tricks. Spitting out the final dirty laws, 4 identical attacks activate harmful contagions on everyone, while 3 spells reflect the evil, destroying the mages' faces with their own rotten coin, return twofold with a cruel, nasty taste, laughing malignantly without mercy at the annoying pain of the cowards behind the line, hitting from a distance, crying over their pains and losing the game in a disgusting, frustrating, punitive, silly, pathetic way, laughed at, cried, blind on the ground. Rolling in blood and humiliation and in the dry, silent, blind, useless, stuck, ugly rage, turning off the lights of the bad, dirty, cowardly game of a keyboard rat. Exuding pure reddish, shallow, overused, common villain-like murderous power and cliché dumb rage, screaming crazily into the void, sweating filthily, the Lord Beast threat growls to crush the ant without mercy under the tip of its soul, wearing out its expensive boot, hitting blindly, crazily, and dirtily. Immediately, a cursed fog quickly creeps in, breaking the entire team's stats with a slow, stone-like fatigue, sinking the weak clique's legs into an infernal, invisible lake, trapping their escape at a slow 4%, fleeing to their doom without mercy, heavy sunken, with no way out in the drowned cave. Overcome by unjust panic, the support cries and screams, complaining that a normal takedown was already a disaster, and enduring garbage bonuses on top of that is scandalous, inhuman torture for their crap level and a broken, screwed-up, messed-up imbalance of the rotten, miserable game itself. Loose, stealing coins from the addiction of the dumb user stuck in the gacha, throwing away tokens. Shielded by the hidden graces of the hidden goddess protecting him passively, our little MC lights up his golden crest, sweeping away all the madness from his head, nullifying the fetid magic and mentally laughing, ignoring the blind filth unleashed freely to kick the boss's crushed skull in the face and tear it apart with his own hands, forcing success with his usual focused, solitary fury without restraints. With a smile of relief, the guy immediately realizes that the passive completely nullified the negative effects on his body. Firm in his leadership, the shield bearer tells the team to stop attacking and focus only on dodging to avoid fatal mistakes. Full of doubt, the big guy asks our hero if he has any tricks up his sleeve to bypass the op mechanic. Calmly drawing his blade, the MC just tells the guys to wait a bit as he advances alone towards the danger. Covered in a brutal red aura, the Reaper declares with blood in his eyes that he's going to slice the beast to pieces in an instant. Completely in shock, the shield leader's eyes widen, not believing his lone ally's suicidal courage. With a violent crash, the lizard smashes the ground, but the warrior's agility ensures a clean and perfect dodge. Taking advantage of the opening, the sword leaves a crimson trail, slashing the creature's back as it roars in pure agony. Clashing head-on with the beast's ignorance, the impact of the weapons raises bright sparks, illuminating the dark cave. Sliding through the mud with mastery, our warrior escapes the blind spot and positions himself for the next deadly blow. Like a hurricane of blades, he shreds the monster with dozens of swift blue cuts, giving it no chance to defend. Far from the impact zone, the newbies don't understand how the veteran continues to move freely without being paralyzed. Confused by the absurd show, the shield bearer mutters that he thought his ally was just a damage dealer and nothing more. Lost in his memories, the leader notices with shock that this identical brutal fighting style belongs to a famous legend. Soon, a new explosion of energy dominates the scene as the guy blocks the monster's heavy attack with brute force. Raising the stained steel high, the kid declares that this is the power of a true god of war. Pushing off a rock, his acrobatic leap ends with a lethal arc descending straight onto the creature's neck. In a rainy sequence of attacks, the blue streaks chip away at the aberration's resistance, leaving it on the verge of its end. Fixing his gaze on the shining identification panel, the tank whispers the hero's name, swallowing hard with admiration. Even all beat up, the mutant goblin lets out a deafening roar, attempting one last blind, desperate charge. Maintaining his usual absolute coolness, our MC's scarlet gaze glows in the dark, calculating the weak point. With a surgically precise torso twist, a horizontal cut raises a brutal wave of dust and destruction. Giving no room to breathe, the blade descends, cracking the air with a thunderous impact that smashes the opponent's defenses. Mercilessly punishing the green hide, every swift movement of the swordsman sends digital pieces flying across the floor. With proficiency levels rising non-stop on the screen, a colossal upward slash sends the boss flying. Bathed in the glow of his fury passive, the weapon gains an insane damage bonus, promising to rip the beast's head off. With both hands on the hilt, his execution stance is ready for the inevitable finishing blow to the rotten head. Like a lethal lightning bolt, the sword plunges vertically with a dry snap that echoes throughout the haunted tomb. Choking on its own pixelated blood, the creature lets out its final roar of defeat as its gigantic body gives way. Finally defeated, the green brute collapses, breaking the floor and marking the end of the nightmare for the newbies. Soon, the system boxes glow, confirming the mutant boss's demise and the impossible success of the mission. Outside the hideout, the team walks incredulously towards the carcass, praising the insanity they just witnessed. Still trembling, the archer brings up the topic of their savior's real identity with the big shield bearer. Straight to the point, the group leader whispers, questioning if that op kid is indeed the living legend of the server. Totally astonished by the absurd theory, the blonde kid's eyes widen, unable to form a proper answer. In perfect sync, the two of them stare at the silent figure sheathing his majestic weapon just ahead. With his weapon stylishly sheathed, the old soldier doesn't even pay attention to the whispers as the beast melts into blue lights. Suddenly, a cascade of golden panels descends on the screen, announcing a new absolute time record for the map. Stuffing his inventory in one go, the hero scores a complete set of absurd rarity and the coveted title. Satisfied with the hefty prize, our protagonist smirks, muttering that beating up these creatures pays really well. Oozing malice in his gaze, he completes the sadistic joke, stating that the best part is slicing everyone up. Running towards the master, the newbies appear, drooling over their own screens of freely earned prizes. Full of joy, the blonde guy freaks out upon getting a super rare heroic title just for being in the same takedown group. In a deep bow of pure gratitude, the weaklings cry their thanks for being carried on his back. Very calm and humble, the guy waves his hand, assuring them that the help was no big deal. Suddenly, the big guy calls the fake leader's attention, with a trembling voice full of worry in his throat. With a trembling finger in the air, the shield bearer asks the veteran to check the names that were just engraved on the server's leaderboard. Etched at the absolute top, the amateur group's name comfortably surpassed the old record of the famous big corporations. Full of shame, the shield bearer apologizes, stating that he should have hidden the team's identification. Not caring much about it, our MC calmly replies that occupying the first place is always a cool privilege. Worried about retaliation, the tank explains that the giant guilds use these easy records to gain real fame. Cold as ice, the shield guy fears that the venomous snakes from the top ranks will come hunting the team for stealing their fame. Deep in his eyes, the swordsman ignores the warning, focusing only on the fact that he crushed Annihilation's record. Terrified by the mistake, the cowardly leader even offers financial compensation for the completely unintentional problem he caused. Very serene and unconcerned about threats, the hero just closes his eyes, blocking out his weak ally's useless desperation. With a light sigh, he reassures the team, saying that everything is perfectly fine and there's no reason for so much panic. Oozing calmness, the guy reminds them that the system records it automatically and that the surprise victory was just a fun little detail. With some smooth talk, the fake newbie swears he hates the spotlight and that being famous only attracts useless headaches. But inside his own wicked mind, a greedy smile takes over, celebrating the mountain of stolen items in his bag. Fixated on the divine stats, the red set promises to triple the character's base strength, tearing through enemy defenses. Focused on the cash and the power, he notes that this equipment is the absolute peak for the newbie region. Exuding pure satisfaction, the legend mentally states that it's impossible to be stressed after getting so many gifts. Relieved by his partner's answer, the big guy breathes deeply, letting go of all the weight and stress of his worries. With a hand on his tired face, the hunter asks the team to stop with the boring funeral vibe and move on. Practical as always, the swordsman decrees that the sad talk is over and they should focus only on the next game objective. Thrilled by such generosity, the marksman swears eternal loyalty, sucking up to the king's imposing posture. With no time for blind adoration, a shining blue vortex opens in the air, announcing their victorious exit from the tomb. Behind the magic portal, the blonde kid confesses to the tank that he thought the old rumors about the hero were a big, silly exaggeration. Staring at the broad, imposing back of the legend marching towards the light, the newbie finally understands the weight of the name. Standing at the exit, our MC turns his head, calling out the slowness of his companions who are still frozen on the ground. With his boots planted in the teleportation stream, the guy leaves the marks of enemy blood behind in the dark cave. Swallowed by a blinding celestial light, the entire squad is ejected from purgatory towards a safe rest. Far from the murderous darkness, the peaceful sun-drenched scenery of the illuminated alleys welcomes the champions with calmness. Dazzled by the gigantic space of the cozy little shop inside, the noob's jaws drop at the magic. Ignoring his allies' childish surprise, the veteran's sharp gaze sweeps the suspicious establishment in search of business. Straight at the dark counter, our hunter stares at the mysterious alchemist Caldo without blinking. Suspicious of the troupe, the hooded vendor asks in a very gruff manner who they are. Frightened by the NPC's sinister appearance, the newbies whisper, but the MC tells them to shut up. Maintaining a firm posture, the swordsman warns that no one there came to give up so easily. Slamming the vial forcefully on the table, he hands over the mutant's blood required for the mission. Completely in shock, the NPC's eyes widen, astonished by the record time of 40 minutes. With a mission-accomplished smile, the kid confirms their success while the team watches from behind. Attracted by the group's strength, the alchemist grants maximum affinity points to our guy. Popping up on the screen, rewards rain down with lots of gold and even an exclusive forged silver ring. Thanks to the completion of the initial phase, the system grants definitive passage to the main continent. Jumping for joy, the partners celebrate the incredible victory and the change of scenery. Curious about the extra gifts, the king of the server checks the secret postcard he got from the NPC. Focusing on what really matters, he selects the random skill ticket on the interface. Before the rolling magic, virtual cards float and spin in a mysterious bluish aura. In a blinding flash, the skill roulette starts to spin, promising a new power for his arsenal. Analyzing the faint light, the veteran grumbles that it lacks the divine aura from the Pantheon room. Immediately, the Eye of Truth passive is activated, revealing the secrets behind the draw. Due to his bad luck, only common rarity cards roll on the panel without any special glow. Drawing a dash cut, the system delivers a simple skill based on raw speed. Satisfied with the basic, he remembers using this same swift trick a lot in the old Demrock era. Right after, the most valuable ticket shines on the screen, promising even a legendary rank on the spin. Suddenly, a critical time's up warning flashes red, completely killing the roulette's vibe. Due to the game's health rule, the 10-hour continuous limit blocks addicts from immersion. Shocked by how fast time flew, the swordsman's eyes widen, realizing he's been logged in all day. Mercilessly, the forced shutdown timer starts its fatal countdown in the final seconds. In a pure panic, the guy yells at the interface to hurry up, sweating bullets as the deadline approaches. In a frantic tap, he hits the draw button, begging for the card to flip before the screen goes black. With only 1 second left, the ticket's silhouette spins in the digital sky as his anxiety soars. Just as it's about to be revealed, the server cuts the connection, forcibly turning off the lights of the virtual world. Screaming like a madman in the dark void, the MC tries to prevent the mandatory logout, but to no avail. Kicked out of the system, his mind abruptly returns to the powered-down capsule in the middle of his dark room. Still trapped in the agony of the game, the kid continues to yell impatiently, not noticing the real world. Slowly, the machine's glass lid opens, hissing as the trapped air escapes the cramped cabin. Strapped into the safety equipment, the ex-military man stares at the ceiling, breathing heavily from the big scare. Coming to his senses, he lets out a groan of frustration over the roulette being cut off right at the decisive moment of the gamble. Overcome by a deadly rage, he roars with muffled hatred inside the giant immersion helmet. Outside the apartment, the day has already broken, showing the quiet life going on in the big city building. Sitting impatiently in his chair, our hero nervously taps his leg, completely focused on the thin screen. On his phone's display, the time shows 10 o'clock sharp, unlocking the restriction on his temporarily banned account. Extremely nervous, the hunter bites his nails, praying to the gods to grant him the epic prize from the draw. In an agile leap, he jumps straight into the machine, unable to wait any longer for the answer. After the retinal scan and ID validation, the login finally completes, turning on the entire matrix for good. Projected into the rustic alleys of Ard, the bright fantasy scenery embraces his virtual body once more. In a mad dash through the streets, the guy looks for an isolated refuge to check his intact magic bags. Biting his finger in tension, the swordsman remembers seeing a yellow smoke before the total power failure. Accessing the skills box, relief hits him as he sees the skill was successfully saved in the secure vault. Despite the fancy smoke, the card shines at a heroic level, shattering his hopes of it being a mythic. According to the holographic description, the backstab move reveals a fatal leap to a marked enemy's back. Logically, this deadly technique is the biggest trademark of stealthy assassin classes. Thanks to the insane movement, the distance to the target is closed, nullifying the long-range magic of cowards in the rear guard. Being a sword master, the kid finds it ironic to have pulled the most lethal card of the shadow assassins. With his judgment already a bit corrupted, the psychopath smirks sadistically, imagining the blind terror he'll cause in the open field. Nearby, a couple of newbies walk through the alley, discussing the next useless tips from boring tutorials. Alerted by a bizarre noise, the boy stops walking, looking scared at the dark end of the narrow corridor. In the quiet shadows of the stones, the MC laughs macabrely to himself, looking like a true, insane mental patient. With glowing red eyes and a crazy look, Kaiser's expression scares away any fragile soul nearby. Terrified by the weirdo laughing at the wall, the noobs stammer in fear and decide to quickly change their route. In a desperate escape, the two extras vanish from the map, running far away from the dangerous maniac with long blades. Not understanding their fearful reaction at all, our hero blinks in confusion, watching the players bolt from the alley in a hurry. Cutting the weird mood, the veteran opens the armor tab, determined to test out his new war look. Equipped with the brute iron of the mutant lord, the new accessories double the total power of the newly promoted fighter. With his greatsword resting cockily on his shoulder, the goal now is to march towards the big city without looking back. Positioned at the shimmering portal, the system begins the dimensional countdown, swallowing the character for good. In the veteran's mind, he feels a slight pang for having disappeared without even saying a little goodbye to his fearful partners. Aware of their neediness, he knows the team was getting too attached, and that would only slow down his lethal mission. Sucked in by the sharp blue light, the lone wolf bids farewell to the training map, leaving the ruins in the gray past. Landing on his feet in the giant square of the metropolis of Raven, the marvelous scenery shines under the strong sun of the busy afternoon. Unlike the initial refuge, this capital connects the servers, bringing together experienced hunters from all over. Admiring the imposing architecture with towers and castles, the guy recognizes the famous Ground Zero for every professional. Soon, a platoon of heavy cavalry parades, clearing the way for the feared Royal Knights of Raven to march. Right beside them, guards drag a thief through the streets, proving that the law system works through naked brute force. Immediately, release panels pop up, revealing deadly arenas and permanently unlocked duels there. With a giant golden welcome notice, the Matrix confirms the real start of the free-for-all chaos on the crowded central server. Fascinated by the absurd anthill of players, the swordsman agrees that the real war is about to erupt violently. Right there from a stall, a gossipy NPC compliments his scarlet cape and immediately offers a nice bitter beer to refresh the warrior. Catching the warrior's attention, the stall vendors offer a good hot pork soup to restore energy. With his eyes shining with emotion, he realizes why many people prefer to just stroll around instead of fighting in this realistic world. Quickly, his killer focus returns with a firm slap to his own face to shake off the silly tourist distraction. Carrying his weapon imposingly on his back, the legend decides to look for the first risk zone to hunt for XP in the city. Like a red lightning bolt, our MC slashes a dark monster's throat in a devastating cut, spraying virtual blood. Sweeping through the green plains of Raven, the red sword dictates a brutal rhythm, mercilessly beating down on the short creatures. Thanks to the complete set's passive, each blow causes even more damage to these weak targets, terrified by his lethal force. Overcome by pure panic from the swift takedown, the red goblins run away crying as the morale of the rest plummets. In a giant destructive blast, the magic explodes, slicing through 3 opponents with a single swing, painting the green grass crimson. Completely massacred in the blink of an eye, the blue monster's eyes bulge and they fall, their lights going out sliced up. Landing majestically on the blood-soaked grass, the ex-soldier's military boot maintains perfect balance after the deadly leap. Wiping the sharp tip of his red equipment, the warrior confirms the area has been exterminated without breaking a single sweat. Satisfied with the destructive bath, he murmurs excitedly, swearing that he's completely intoxicated by that massive power. Praising the insane quality of his new armor, the guy thrills at the absurd multiplier that breaks the rules of basic defense. Sporting a sweet childlike smile, the lonely psychopath celebrates, laughing out loud at the incredible taste of exterminating weak noobs. Checking the holographic missions tab, his gold income rises very quickly, promising a new level in minutes. Suddenly, a different noise cuts through the quiet of the slaughter, locking the hunter's scarlet gaze on a tree up ahead. In a fraction of a second, a shining purple silhouette tries to jump on our wolf's back but is detected instantly. Yelling a sadistic and crazy warning, the mysterious kid compliments the MC's awesome armor and swears to steal it from the victim. Like a violent flash, the purple stab lunges at the newcomer's skull, forcing an inevitable counter-reaction. Blinded by the prize's greed, the little thief curses, announcing dinner, and celebrates the takedown that hasn't even happened yet on the grass. But the fun ends quickly when the red sword swings up dryly, cracking the impact of the weak little purple blade. With his goggles bulging, the thief can't believe the brute defense completely nullified his dirty surprise jump. Standing like a cold statue, the owner of the hit didn't even move, looking the foolish prey up and down with boredom. In an instinctive jolt of pure fear, the coward retreats, breaking the ground with his boot to gain distance from the armored monster. Pulling out his claws, the desperate thief yells an order to attack to his accomplices, telling them to take control of the situation right away. At the same moment, another minion notches his magic bow, firing blue light arrows, aiming for a sure shot at the red chest. But in a fluid motion of flicking his wrists, the metal greatsword deflects the weak beams, shattering everything in one go. Drooling hatred, the third bandit pulls his axe, running blindly across the field, seeking to take out the armor owner's knees. Using both hands with absurd firmness, the crimson blade sweeps through the axeman's defenses, destroying the coward's tough guy pose. Caught squarely by the blast of the cutting wave, the axeman warrior tumbles backward like a harmless rag doll. Taking advantage of the other archer partner's wide-open guard, the red blow swings up, crushing his thin bones in the wind. Completely sliced up, the paper-thin archer spits red juice into the air and flies away, knocked out before he can even understand the hit. Paralyzed by the instant terror of defeat, the two remaining PKers break into a cold sweat, seeing their criminal plan go down a shallow drain. The bow-wielding boss panics illogically because the forums guarantee that a noob can't break the marking system up ahead. With an impossible leap in a millimeter-sized space, the shadows deceive the loser's vision, virtually swallowing gravity. Facing a deadly black blur, the archer tries to find the armed phantom, but is surprised by a heavy presence at his back. Flashing a wide, evil grin from ear to ear, the lonely legend asks very smoothly if they are lost on the map. Immersed in dark memories of the past, the veteran agrees that cheating scum infests every world even to this day. To make matters worse, this disgusting bunch doesn't enter the legal arenas, cowardly preferring to slice up innocents with sneak attacks from behind. These cowards, known as player killers, ruin any online environment for the pure sadistic fun of it. Spinning his dirty knife with a bandit's look, the legend declares on screen that this plague survives solely based on evil pleasure. Named in whispers as noob hunters, the scoundrels stalk those who have just been born into the game, shooting in the dark. Full of disgust for his ridiculous opponents, our hero wields his sword bathed in his own lethal wrath, ready to sweep away the weak. Reborn from pure dust with the same illuminated diabolical smile, he reinforces the cynical question, calling the thieves to the imminent slaughter. Staring his own end in the face, the mark of cowardice vanishes and the boss's eyes bulge, terrified by the scream of blind panic. Stammering like an idiot, the kid cries, asking the heavens how a heavy guy with a big sword can use an assassin's secret passive. Without an answer, the divine panel confirms the 3 consecutive takedowns, sealing the doom of the trio of cheap, cowardly villains in the sparse forest. Since the losers fell under the dirty rules, the screen blesses the act of self-defense, not punishing the legend with red karma on his record. With a bored look, the Avenger of the Woods sighs, remembering that this doesn't happen at the beginning because the village protects noobs from free damage on the ground. A passing nostalgia reminds him of others' innocence, grumbling about the weak folks from the early days being good people, laughing heartily. But the harsh world outside the fence shows who really governs, delivering bad blood that melts, digitized at the left foot of the trash-collecting MC. Pocketing the attacker's useless dagger, he heads towards his mission to pull in cash and clear the pending achievements full of waiting XP. Quickly, the big screen stacks a blessed shower of gold, marking level 17 on his back after hours of slaughtering and clearing the brush. Standing at an imposing black gate flanked by craggy pillars, he celebrates finally arriving at the door of a true inferno. Dominated by a dense, fearful red, the West Gate is famous in guides for sucking the sanity out of even the most seasoned, brave warrior in the region. Inside the inn, a frightened NPC shrugs his sweaty shoulders, swearing that place is no calm pasture, telling the madwoman in armor to run far away. Far from the peace of the quiet forests, the dark side hides a bestial fury concentrated in the crawling paws of the warm, smoldering earth. Exuding an invisible panic, the swamp gas scares off foolish adventurers and makes the atmosphere dense with chills running rampant in the back. Beyond the simple green skulls, a disgusting plague of deformed insects crawls in the dark, seeking roasted human flesh in any free crevice. In a brutal ambush, a monster grasshopper snaps its poison stinger straight into a blind warrior's jugular, who foams at the mouth, taken out instantly. Because of this brutal and disgusting violence from the killer beetles, the sacred rule of the slaughterhouse is to never walk in there without double cover. Reinforcing the premise of protection, the sign swears that a team of 3 is mandatory to not get wiped out like something run over by the harsh punitive system. Jamming the western gate, the ground trembles with the buzz of the crowd begging for a healer spot on the megaphone to try their silly luck, laughing and crying. Yelling sweatily, an armored warrior desperately begs in the middle of the crowd, wanting to complete a combo with a martial artist to make the farm worth the quick effort. Sulking against a low wall, a marksman cries about the cursed scarcity of the goddess of healing, whining that the whole class is too fragile when things get real. Lamenting the static gameplay, the support healer always gets bored to tears on their account, not landing any hits and still getting a raw deal on the team's XP combo. Suddenly, the archer's partner points, nudging his back at a courageous and ignorant figure breaking the pattern, walking firmly on the cursed ground. Cackling sadistically, the huddled noobs think the red-caped figure is suicidal and dumb for crossing the Arc of Doom alone, ready to hit the floor. The blonde archer sighs tiredly, calling the ex-sergeant a cocky fool with no basic understanding of the darkness that will swallow the proud idiot who's laughing for no reason. Questioning the crazy logic, the wimpy group guesses what fake rank the nutcase is wearing, thinking his long sword will scare away a swarm of demonic mosquitoes. Flashing that famous, cocky psychopathic smirk at the corner of his mouth, the king enjoys the sharp breeze from the dirty stone gate, focused and overwhelming. Surrounded by bloody dead trees, the knight swallows the edges of the clearing, forcing maximum alert from the victim stepping firmly, crushing heavy slime. Bathed in the cursed red nectar of the swamp creatures, the warrior spreads the viscera, slicing the hard center of a drooling, crazed, wild minion's chest. Like a meat grinder in epic mode, the blows rain down in a furious whirlwind, tearing through the scenery, sweeping away the blind wave to disappear without a trace, digitized. In the momentum of the merciless slaughter, the lone warrior slashes a goblin in midair with a precise leap as the creature attempts a pathetic, suicidal ambush. With the prey's body melting on the ground, the blood sword spreads a gust of wind, kicking up all the dirt around the dark clearing. Twirling in a free fall, the master slicer bags another ugly goblin in the middle of a spinning leap, planting the sharp tip straight into its chest. With an absurd seismic thud, he plants his heavy weapon into the hard ground, opening a luminous crater and launching the nearest opponents high into the air. Without giving any time for response, a fatal beam pierces the dust, cutting the dark flesh of another minion before it can touch the grass. Frightened by the macabre show, the little green creatures retreat, crawling and letting out thin screams, begging for mercy from the red nightmare of clean carnage. Diving into the newly created rift, a bloody whirlwind takes over, splitting 3 more weak henchmen, swallowed in a clean, silent cut. Amidst the blinding glow of the unleashed power, our protagonist shines with crimson energy, channeling the true, crushing essence of the epic warrior. Immediately, the expanding reddish wave throws back any leftovers that try to jump, in a brutal pressure punch, crushing everything in a pure, fatal range. Standing in an isolated corner, the last terrified survivor backs away, trembling as he sees the killer hood reaping his entire family. Totally relentless, Kaiser's crazy face is reflected in the blade that's already lining up for the definitive finishing blow, focused on the filthy carcass isolated there. In a low-flying swoop, brute force unleashes the final blow, sinking the poor little monster's head, breaking all the bones in its spine with a dry echo. Exploding in a bizarre scarlet torrent, the decapitated beast drips red pieces of data, sealing its dirty fate, falling heavily like a rotten anvil. Due to its enormous force, the final hammer blow hits hard, sweeping away any remaining obstacle, leaving cracked rock scattered everywhere, loose and gone for good. Satisfied with the massive cleanup, the digital panel confirms the deactivation of the passive, saving the bloodthirsty fury, ready to be used on the next big batch. Suddenly, a terrifying roar echoes in the dark forest, heralding another pair of drooling minions ready to try their silly luck against the clean, sharp knife. Activating the pure glow of the master, the legend's simple dagger flashes brightly with a celestial blue, freezing the cursed restrictions of the wrong class in his chest. Immediately, the blue glow of the deadly card shines, and the player leaps, merging with the shadows, perfectly teleporting over the first beastly brute. Landing with pure, sharp ninja style, a fatal stab breaks the brute's neck, sending a digital bloody fountain to end the short, dirty fight. Without taking a single breath, the ex-sergeant lands heavily, stepping on both opponents at the same time, slicing their weak base into lost and dizzy pieces. With a relentless circular motion, the red arms tear through the chests of whoever is left, creating a dense, sliced, bloody cloud in the middle of the raw, cold night. Roars and whimpers cut through the forest as the illuminated beam goes straight, cutting through everything as if it were rotten Swiss cheese, ending in scattered dust flying far away. Smiling at his newly switched short weapon, he celebrates the lethal lightness of that small axe, tested in the swift, dirty, sweaty, thin-blooded beatdown. In droves, the naked bodies fall in the sand, confirming on the shining big screen consecutive easy victories on the backs of that stupid, weak group. Accumulating XP at an absurd rate, his proficiency with axes already climbs to level 2, tearing through the giant, thick, fallen, cracked, isolated blind-edge tree. Exhausted but focused, the kid analyzes the little screen and confesses with relief to have cleared that whole tedious list full of beastly, weak, disgusting elves from beyond. Changing focus instantly, his cynical mind searches the map for the next necklace rescue mission, smelling something suspicious hovering near the high neighboring rocks. In a flash, the bushes rustle loudly, spitting out a disgusting centipede, screaming and drooling toxic slobber, wanting to eat the soldier alive in one disgusting swipe. Like a giant armored snake, the poisonous pest reflects shining red eyes, locking its hungry attention, aiming a drooling leap at the tough face right in front. Reacting instantly, Kaiser grinds his teeth, cursing the darned creature to its face, preparing for the heavy crash coming downhill dirty. From the top of the dense trees, a cloud of birds flees in desperation, frightened by the insane destruction coming from the heavy, stinking ground of the map below. Propelled by the force of the impact, the military leg gave way but locked at the limit, tearing the earth as the long pest rose with a nasty, violent, shrill thud. Letting out sharp, disturbing hisses, the monster tries to trap the victim in a dirty, poisonous whip with its millions of sticky, fetid little paws in the air. In an unrestrained fury, the hunter clenches his jaw, roars with rage, and retaliates, holding his two-handed sword, waiting for the soft, scaly chest to come down undefended. Cutting through the wind, the sharp blade glides, slashing a deadly line across the top and piercing the creature's disgusting purple hide with straight, unwavering, precise aim. With that malicious, demonic look plastered on his dirty face, the little MC is one step away from laughing, savoring the inevitable doom of the poor, silly little worm fighting for nothing. In a blind jolt of pure pain, the creature's scarlet eyes blink, feeling the first piece of its body being separated with a clean, resonant snap. Pulling in an upward diagonal, the Slayer's body spin sends a white ray upwards, severing the dirty paw and tearing the entire neck of the sliced swamp snake. Spewing rotten, slimy sap outwards, the centipede's monstrous throat explodes, feeling the cold steel sweep from end to end without any mercy in the game. Taking the brunt of his own blow, the swordsman flies diagonally, supported by an orange flash, landing in a flawless, clean, perfect, agile maneuver on the smooth base. Already stabilized, his boots plant dryly in a quick, measured retreat, just watching from the sidelines as the disgusting doom thrashes about, rolling ugly in the dirt of the bank. Mad with hatred and infernal pain, the blind beast raises its crooked snout, spewing poison from the hole in its mouth towards the guy, trying to burn his thin red cape. Observing the attack pattern with absurdly calculated coolness, his cold eyes read the next useless, garbage leap, ready to hit and parry the loose, deadly blow. On the wire of survival, the hammer blow defends against the mud-caked spikes, deflecting all the brutal weight with a pure, divine reflex pulled out of a hat in a dry shock. Knocked out by its own broken charge, the plague collapses, falling and letting out the last whiny screech of its miserable life, their crooked, sliced, broken yellow. Without forgiving the failure, the sharp blue mark glows, planting the peaks of demise straight into its filthy, scaly back, locking everything down with no chance of escape on the blind, fried stone. Cruelly mocking the situation, Kaiser throws a sharp joke and leaps, falling like a hot stone, slicing the already down centipede, tearing it even more for good measure. Finishing the dirty crimson bath, liters of toxic slime wash over the ground, spraying the disgusting defeat, vanishing with the sad, unsalvageable, lost whimpers for free. With a smooth flick of his wrist, he shakes off the rotten, fetid excess from the sword, ensuring no noob residue sullies the blessed, divine, clean, dry tool. Majestic as always, the beast hunter adjusts his jacket and weapon, sweeping away the ashes and proceeding firmly on his mission with the easy trails of victory left behind, laughing. Celebrating on the shimmering little screen, the victory notification brings high points, leveling up the absurd skill in rustic brawling with guaranteed strong, stored force on a silver platter. A beam of light rises, blessing the MC with more levels, hitting the mark of 19, sweaty and victorious after this long, massive, and intensely focused hunting session. Bathed in the divine blue and yellow aura, our arena monster dusts himself off, confirming that this round's XP yielded more than expected from easy farming. Checking his op stat sheet, the warrior smiles foolishly, stating that leveling up there was way too sweet, with vital points popping up like scattered, fat, painless, clean popcorn. Wiping the mud from his shoulders, he deduces with focus that out of the 300 useless missions listed in the hunt, he finished the main ones by tearing through big, fat, ugly, silly monsters. With only the simple passive task of locating the darned necklace found in a hidden log, laziness kicks in to go digging through dust for a silly forgotten trophy. Due to the tedious tutorial routine, he just needed to go to a specific marked point, sweep a soft bush, and pocket a boring, lame prize to return to the crowded base. Putting his sword away in his backpack for rest, the sergeant advances calmly on the dark trail, concluding that a peaceful rescue wouldn't require a bathed and drawn blade, and laughs. Knowing every pebble there by heart, the veteran master swears on his life that the harmless item sleeps calmly untouched, without dangers and surprise traps from behind. At the foot of the giant tree, a comical surprise catches him off guard, revealing a docile single-file line of drooling players, politely praying to grab a falling, boring item. Among the polite extras, a soldier grumbles to his hasty companions, telling them to keep the line clean without cutting into the sacred guaranteed space in a useless, garbage-pushing match. Focusing on the scattered foliage on the ground, he notices that therein lies the blessed item with a passive respawn, forcing everyone to gather in a silly, pathetic, and ridiculous potluck. Analyzing the wait time, our MC celebrates with relief, seeing the small commotion and thankful not to be rotting there in vain like a clueless roach chasing silly luck. Whispering gossip, the cowardly duo in front swears on the cute new rumor that the powerful Guild of Justice swept some suckers from top to bottom, hitting them dirty and without mercy. Laughing at the gossip, the idiot newbie hopes the sucker assassins cry for messing with the nest of those who farm quietly, receiving a straight and worthy punishment to their soft, dirty, clean, blind faces. In a bizarre alert, the blonde girl nudges her partner, swearing on her life she heard the cocky PvP nutjob shout the sacred name Kaiser to the four winds right over there. Completely frozen in pure shock, the ex-sergeant looks up, questioning his own sanity upon hearing his own name scattered to the winds, loose among loose-lipped noobs. Cackling, the paladin doubts, stating it must be a silly, blind, cheap cosplay because a master swordsman landing a hidden stab would break all the mechanics on a ridiculous, unreal level. Believing in the game's class rules, the audience there agrees in chorus, finding the planted lie insane, forgetting about the real devil squeezed behind them, silent, blind with rage, laughing nervously. Realizing the lethal power of the rumors spreading in the circle, the lone hunter swallows hard, foreseeing the deadly abyss of the big guilds coming, drooling over the fat, dirty, heavy spotlights right there soon. In a quick tactical read, the old fox confesses that if the big shots wanted to hunt a bizarre newbie, they would do it by hitting hard without a second thought, planting their dirty machete before the team could really grow loose, annoying garbage on the dead ground. Focusing on the old hatred of the big fish, he swears that if they don't buy the account with cash, they'll destroy it with a pure sledgehammer, sinking the dreams of the loose competitors out there. Clean, easy, dumb, heavy, dirty, drooling, fearful, whiny, rotten, empty, rotten with filth. Falling into the dark depths of a silent life in a weak, rotten garbage game of cowardly, weak, loser, liar, soft, squeezed, silent mud, shutting the dirty beak of a loose, soft life of the silly, fearful, cowardly, liar crowd. Suddenly, a fine, golden glow pops into his hand, pulling the precious cord, sealing the ridiculous, passive, gentle, free collection to end the day. Before the dusty portal, the interface beeps, yelling to return the friendly prize, asking him to go back and deliver everything to the relic's owner. Flying lightly back to the city, the item's owner screams emotionally, recovering the day's peace, praising divine miracles while the hunter collects easy XP, silent, rich, fat, heavy with great, gentle, free, serene luck. Good at the game, strong, clever, smooth, good, alive, focused, laughing. Overcome with gratitude, the little girl hands over the chest, and the MC gets gold, XP, and another magic ticket for his success. As a form of sincere affection, the girl reveals that the mysterious box is her most valuable possession in the whole world. With the gift in his hands, the warrior tells her to be more careful and never lose the rare gem so carelessly again. Very happy with the hero's attitude, her affinity rises to the maximum level, guaranteeing extra rewards. After a farewell wave, the kid finds it funny how easy it was to please the girl, earning easy points. Focused on progress, the swordsman is already walking through the streets, looking to clear the next mission on the list right away. On the holographic panel, he finds a boss hunt that promises another free lottery ticket. Among the Westgate's options, the two main lairs are teeming with monsters wanting hot blood. Because of his red set, the Goblin Slaughterhouse is the best choice, but the rule there requires forming a team. Thoughtfully, the veteran strokes his chin, thinking it's too early to show off his op skills there. At the cave entrance, a crowd of adventurers gathers, shouting and looking for fighting partners. Yelling, a desperate tank recruits, demanding level 20 fire mages to complete his team's combo. Around the danger zone, merchants take advantage of the chaos, selling items and repairing torn armor. Observing the parallel market, our hero notices that even the support folks are cashing in big on that map. In a humiliating way, a rogue tries to get a spot in a group, but is kicked out without mercy by the demanding leaders of the place. Outraged by the rejection, the renegade tries to argue, but is told his class is dead weight in the dungeon. At the same moment, a little mage pops up in the corner, and the hunters change their tune, fawning over the girl nonstop. Faced with the pathetic scene, the ex-sergeant concludes that magic reigns supreme there, and the rest is pure trash. Thanks to the boss's weaknesses, mages are treated like untouchable deities on this unfair server. Totally frustrated, the guy sighs heavily, realizing that the sword class has zero respect. Suddenly, a voice calls his attention, noticing the awesome red equipment the hero is carrying on his back. Oozing friendliness, a blonde guy invites our lone wolf to complete his attack group without any red tape. Surprised by the invitation, the swordsman mentions his class, but the guy smiles, assuring him he doesn't care about that. With danger alarms blaring in his head, the veteran smells trouble but accepts the invitation to see what's up. Maintaining a fake smile, the recruiter promises to send the request to the guy's screen to seal the partnership. Immediately, the blue panel pops up, confirming the clique is full of bizarre names and higher levels. After reading the shady nicknames, it dawns on our MC, revealing the rotten identity of his allies. In a reddish vision, the guy's killer aura reveals they are the same cowards from the surprise attack. From a distance, the blonde guy whispers with his gang, confirming they've hooked the exact target they wanted to take out. From the greatsword and red armor, the bandits are absolutely certain the newbie is their valuable prey. With that diabolical little smile, the hero knows that armor like that is rare and attracts flies to the garbage. Swallowed by the cave's darkness, the rocky fiery scenery reveals the green hell locked inside. In the blink of an eye, the red sword cuts through the air, slicing the door guard before he can even scream. Surprised by the speed, the healer compliments the quick takedown, thinking the dungeon will be a walk in the park. To keep up the act, the psychopath praises the team, swearing that success comes from the good union of the living partners. Cornered in the back, the monstrous boss sends his shock troops into combat, wanting to stop the invasion. Without losing rhythm, the Crimson Blade dances, slicing ugly necks and scattering red data across the floor. Playing smart, the tank pushes the entire front line onto the MC, wanting to test his strength. With empty promises, the bandits swear to provide cover if things get rough for the new warrior. Reading their rotten minds, the ex-sergeant instantly understands they want to gauge his strength before making their move. Accepting the cheap provocation, the kid decides to play along to see how far they'll go. Taking a deep breath, he activates a furious dash, tearing through the earth and flying like a bullet towards the dirty goblins. With a devastating impact, the greatsword explodes in the middle of the horde, sending sliced monsters flying across the scene. In their safe corner, the thieves whisper, confirming they've found the right monster and that the hunt is worth it. Evaluating the clean movements, the shady leader admits the newbie fights absurdly well for his class. Bathed in carnage, the guy dodges the poisonous claws, protecting his weak points with great mastery. Suspicious of his perfection, the blonde guy feels a chill down his spine, noticing that this level of gameplay is highly unrealistic. Incredulous, they don't accept that a pure assassin lost a duel to a heavy dude with a slow greatsword. Analyzing the lying clique, the MC recognizes that their damage and speed are actually decent. Being the most broken PvP class on the server, it's impossible for them to lose to the hero unless he's a god. Cutting through the fear, the boss tells the gang to stop thinking and focus only on the initial plan of a dirty robbery. Adjusting their armor, the scum agrees to clear the stage quickly to focus entirely on betraying their foolish ally. Sealing the evil pact, the troop grits their teeth and prepares to get their hands dirty, faking unity. In a warning tone, the leader demands an angel-faced act so as not to scare away the victim before the real takedown. With a brutal strike, the hero silences another drooling beast, sending its green head rolling on the dark stone. Exuding pure falsehood, the mage praises the guy's raw talent, clapping for the violent and beautiful performance. Modestly, the psychopath returns the compliment, pretending the rear guard was essential to keeping everything under control. Full of ego, the blonde rogue puffs out his chest, swearing that recruiting the warrior was the best move of the entire day. With a foolish smile, the veteran mentally curses them all for their disgusting nerve, plotting behind his back. Quick on the uptake, he notices the scum's lack of honor, having easily left their former dead companion behind. With his brain calculating the worst, the hero knows they'll either discard him or steal his shiny items in a betrayal. Satisfied with their circus act, the gang decides to proceed, exploring the stone tunnel towards the final room of the stage. Shining in his sharp eyes is the lethal intention to crush each one of those rats at the most opportune moment. Down the wide corridor, the kid parries the enemy's swords while the gang pretends to help, hitting weakly. In a planned slip-up, an allied arrow grazes our legend's back, proving that the friendly fire has already begun. Disguising the attempt, the weak archer stammers an apology, saying the monster dodged at the fatal moment. With absolute certainty, the swordsman knows the trash aimed right for his jugular, wanting a dirty and swift takedown. Frustrated with the mistake, the bandits whisper indignantly if the guy has divine luck to dodge a blind shot. Keeping the suspense, the Avenger ponders whether to wait a little longer before massacring the rotten clique. Suddenly, the giant, rustic door swings open, marking their definitive arrival in the main boss hall. Immediately, the room's alarm echoes, warning that the elite guards have discovered the intruders at the entrance. Two giant, heavily armed red beasts march forward, ready to massacre anyone who dares to invade the lair. With absurd war cries, the boss's security guards descend the stairs, shaking the entire hall floor. Yelling a dirty command, the shield-bearing leader sends the newbie to the slaughter, wanting him to face the breach alone. Stunned, the thieves notice that the crazy target wasted no time and is already sticking his sword into the red soldiers. Stammering in shock, the tank questions where on earth that warrior found the speed to disappear from there. Alerting the troop, the mage points out tearfully that the warrior figured everything out and left them alone with the beasts. Suddenly, a furious blow sends sparks flying, forcing a blind defense from the startled clique. Taking the hit head-on, the gang trembles against the wall as blood spews in the open combat. Letting out a horrifying roar, the goblin guard advances like a steamroller, pushing everyone against the wall. With his arm cracked from the force, the weak tank begs for quick magic before his shield shatters. Her voice trembling, the witch girl charges a beam of light in a hurry to sweep the dirty beast away. Rising to the virtual heavens, a massive flaming rock hovers menacingly, ready to crush hide and metal. In a fatal clash, the mage's meteor shatters, creating a thick smoke on the monster's wounded green scales. But swallowing hard, the witch feels a chill down her spine, realizing the rocks turn to dust without hurting the creature at all. Spitting dirt, the creature's heavy boot plants deeply, cracking the hall's hot ground even more. Boasting a grotesque size, the supreme general of the minions emerges from the smoke, intact, with pure hatred in his eye. Confused and terrified, the shield-bearing boss changes his dirty order, telling them to draw attention and buy time to escape. But the light sounds of footsteps echo too close, freezing all the courage left in the broken gang. Haunted, the magic girl cries, asking how on earth that warrior got past the beasts at the door. Leaving the guards completely behind, the legend catches his breath, confirming he didn't take out anyone there. Smiling sarcastically, he clearly remembers the old basic rule that if the aggro is all on someone else, he's safe. His pants trembling, the leader falsely proposes they finish the stage together and leave the ugly fight for outside. Agreeing to see the show, the warrior feigns attention, swearing that the idea of joining forces was the wisest. Immediately, the fake witch relaxes her chest, sweating with relief, thinking she manipulated the fierce beast perfectly. In an insane fraction of scarlet speed, the red sword slashes her neck, spilling her data dryly. Reflecting cruelty, the kid in black vetoes the supposed agreement, crushing any empty hope of peace there. Confirming the complete map cleanup, the golden panel displays the victims, proving their dirty killer labels. Satisfied with the hunt, the hunter smiles, closing the loop of logic that PKers don't receive divine protection in there. To the sergeant's surprise, the empty souls of the gang's shadows emerge in their hidden, macabre aura. Wise in the game, he concludes that evil doesn't get erased, not even on the black screen of those who have already met an early end. Desperate with his data, the last leader cries, demanding justice for having his entire clique decapitated right there. Playing the bad dog, the executioner swears to the team's followers that his basic motto has always been to sweep away trashy rats. Confused with pure terror, the tank screams, demanding the real meaning of it all, not getting the brutal warning of war. Rejecting a false ally, the protagonist points out with a laugh that alley rats always end up sliced in the rotten shadows. Tired of forgiving silly antics, the blind vigilante grits his teeth, focused only on the final moment of the last jerk. Glancing at the small knife, the tank backs away in surprise, yelling that the newbie is in possession of the legendary rare dagger. Mocking him relentlessly, the guy points the knife, laughing, and compliments the thieving shield-bearer's nose for spotting the dirty equipment. Seeing no sense in it, the big guy questions how the heck the brute warrior pulled a passive talent to use such a light thing. Trying to humiliate the hero, the coward warns that there's no way to take out the tough-as-nails goblin boss by resorting to an old knife. Recalling the raid mechanics, the boss has an absolute block against basic physical attacks from any weapon. Because of this detail, the forums established the absurd rule that mages are op there, because they use magic power to sweep through shields. Returning an arrogant laugh, the ex-military man spits out two short words to rub it in his face. Stats solve that. Stunned by the bold statement, the coward tries to read what kind of madness is hitting the empty head of the person he thinks is crazy. Completely off his rocker, the shield-bearer roars, pointing out the logical hole, saying that bleed is just useless, silly support trash. Accepting the term as a joke, the psychopath says that for a dumb layman, of course, basic slow damage doesn't amount to any combat. Confused and mute, the thief just widens his eyes, losing the logical thread of the debate, not getting the genius move that's coming. With a dry snap, the military leg scratches the dust, planting the leather of his boot firmly, preparing the flying kick of imminent revenge. Like a phantom ray, the leap landed perfectly, slicing the tank's sides with crackling, dirty red streaks. Arrogantly, the fake warrior curses the attack, guaranteeing that the trashy little pricks can't pierce the team's dirty tinkin defenses. But overwhelmingly, the system's giant numbers plummet, and the tripled bleed cracks the shield bearer's bones. Completely terrified and spitting red, the weakling curses, demanding an answer for the absurd, brutal difference unleashed there. Swallowing the dust of defeat, the rat concludes on his knees that the low level doesn't add up because the op equipment triples his strength. Aware of all the unfair advantage gained by a lucky shot, the dagger delivers a special, stackable bleed poison. Thinking about the old vices of online gaming, the Master of Arms remembers well that poison of the same class never stacks in real life there. Amused, he guesses that the dumb system failed to predict someone bypassing a pure class by using the weird free op passive. Falling dryly onto the ashes of the dead floor, the former gang leader swears through tears that the focused hunter is using a dirty hack in the tomb. Dying pathetically and ugly, the rat plays dirty, accusing the MC of being a cheater in a final, shallow, desperate gamble. Soon the system beeps, confirming the end of the dirty squad, the corpse vanishing from the space, turning into disgusting, stained digital vapor. Looking at the last piece of trash there, the Avenger points out that trashy, loser henchmen end up repeating the same annoying, silly, cowardly nonsense. In a blind, sliced explosion, a sweaty ally yells the name of the fallen trash, losing all composure and foolish hope of a miraculous, garbage escape. Gritting his rotten teeth in terror, the weak archer's shins lock on the stone, begging for useless, dry help with no one there. Yelling in confusion, the sucker cries for his vanished friends' bodies, asking when and why the whole big plan failed so badly. Spitting the legend into the whiner's little ear, the hunter of the woods corrects, dictating that planning to hunt a shark while being a tiny rat ends with you limp and eliminated. In an insane, empty escape attempt, the weak victim turns tail and runs, sweating lost leaders, crying on the screen looking for dry air far away gone. In slashing the cowardly neck, a fatal line seethes in the air, painting red tints as the little sword of the finished and forgotten whiner falls. Trembling and drooling red, the whining tank collapses to his knees in the dust, feeling the absurd damage tear through his body's weak tin cans for good. In disbelief at the insane strength, the fake paladin spits and coughs, planting his boot on the ground before turning into mist, vanishing from the server quickly. Wiping out the last cowardly scum, the screen blesses the clean victim, exempting the lone Avenger hero of local justice from karma punishment. With only corpses and smoke remaining, the lone master cleans his sweaty brow, celebrating not getting punished and keeping his fat XP balance. Opening the blue screen at the same moment, the sergeant smiles sadistically, focusing all his extra attribute points purely on the brute force parameter. Suddenly the flames flicker, swayed by a heavy, gigantic footstep cutting through the cave's echo, marking a furious, brutish presence in the corner. Roars and enraged screams sprout from the shadows, and the red boss notices the dust and the final cries of his troops exterminated at his own paws. Overflowing with pure vengeful hatred, the horned boss rips his chest with his fists, letting out the roar of activated fury bursting his limits. Breaking into a cold sweat from a slight scare, the MC grits his teeth, remembering that the ugly general was still there, silently lurking, just watching from the back. Confirming the memory, the player sees the giant green tank marching furiously, shaking the hot floor towards the executioner of his minions. Pulling his imposing sledgehammer in a nice wrist spin, Kaiser swears to himself that the second half of the boring game would be worthwhile and way too sweet. Screaming like a madman, the monster titan leaps from the blind ramp, swallowing gravity and aiming to crush the tiny little hat on the ground with his lead foot. Like a deafening hurricane, the beast's paw sinks into the massive dust, burying half of its godlike rock strength into the base, shattering the dirty floor. Using the blind speed of instinct, the hero projects himself into a perfect somersault, using the creature's dirty head as a swift springboard, sliding cleanly. Blind with hatred spinning its heavy head, the horned boss roars upon seeing the fast fly jumping straight into the air in mockery, escaping the soft trip. With a dry backward swing, the legend slashes deep into the green beast's neck, landing right behind it, sliding on the soft dust of the stones. In agony, the drooling creature screams, feeling the cold cut on its scales as the warrior crouches, setting a ready blocking base in front on his feet. With his eyes narrowed like a predatory eagle, he meticulously observes every change in the target's visual pattern on the panel, waiting for the dirty magic to activate. Shining a bright yellow, the macabre aura shields the big guy, locking his eyes in a bestial light of final, instinctive survival activated early. Immediately, the screen screams that the beast's annoying passive pattern ignites, activating a shield of weak mirrors to block a clean physical blow. Sliding underneath with pure cunning, the hero tears the earth, dodging a heavy hook from above and streaking blue across the creature's wide chest. And in an impossible, agile somersault, he launches another half-moon cut, leaving a blue trail through the air, wounding the giant, angry monster's crooked knee. Bleeding from its teeth, the boss's life collapses, falling to 30%, crying red roars as the garbage status corrodes its tin cans. Walking firmly in the rhythm of doom, the Red Warrior wields his dagger without retreating a step, marking the beginning of the end for the annoying boss's legend. In a flash, the two stare at each other silently in the smoky abyss, waiting for the initiative to sink whoever blinks their blind eye first in this sliced dust. Cracking his sharp blade in his hand, the hunter declares open war without delay, promising to settle the score and collect the cash flowing down the drain. Cowering like a trembling sack of crap, the master minion curls into a ball, crying thick tears in a weak, pitiful instinct before the blind machete comes down. But the stones tremble, and with a dry crash, the warrior's leap shakes the ground, rupturing the scenery, charging headfirst in a blind, merciless frontal dive. Activating the leap hidden from the Reaper, the digital particles pull the guy into the logic of a teleport, jumping over barriers and skipping the silly direct shock. Not knowing where the smoke came from, the silly carcass turns its neck towards the light, sweating, shocked, seeing the scythe arriving with fatal fury, cutting off all life from behind. Dematerializing in the swift mist of the assassination, he escapes cleanly, slashing the dead side, fleeing the heavy defenses in a shining, flying blue flash. Mocking with a cold, scarlet smile, the hunter whispers into the beast's thin ear that escaping the final beatdown etched on the map is a silly, childish dream. Bursting in a final, cracked, harsh roar at the end of its weak rope, the ugly beast silently swallows the slice, feeling the weight of the eternal, painful goodbye tearing even its insides, erasing the dirty, dusty, free, gone, ugly, empty, sliced, clean, pure, silly screen. Staining the stones in red lava, the lethal spurt sprays hot vapor, sealing the macabre blind trophy one with dirty, sweaty force, fighting cleanly, serenely, masterfully, easily, lightly, purely, freely, easily, master hunter, hunted, hunter of noobs, king there, dry, free. And in the silent quiet, the dry thud resounds as the green sack bathes, scatters the pieces, erasing the bars and adding everything to the infinite count of the lone, calm, alive, gentle, smooth, loose, strong, tough slicer. Their loose, master, clean, sweaty, rich, beautiful lord. Analyzing the treasure showcases, the collector nods at the valuable belt he won, confirming that the gods always send the prize at the exact time, satisfying the silly missing needs. According to the panel, the heavy belt boosts strength by 1 sweaty point and guarantees a bar. Smiling up at the sky, the kid sighs in comfort, ensuring that the collections are at a cool level, easily surpassing the rankings of the fake guilds full of silly, rotten, dirty, weak, laughing, gentle, fat, drooling, clueless, blind, garbage, rotten, empty, whiny, fake, garbage, weak, loser, clueless, silly, fearful, fake, fearful, loose noobs, they're sliced blind. Adjusting the shiny belt on his waist, the ex-military man sadly shakes his head at the lack of temporary goals from the agendas that force bizarre rankings in every senseless event. Rummaging through the stained spoils of the dirty gang from the woods, the hunter notices a bunch of magical trinkets scattered in the moldy pits of the stinking, muddy arena. Fishing out a smooth silver shield, he discovers the incredible piece, engraved with a rare rank boasting luxurious, divine stats to cover the tank's defense. Reading the name Bastard Sword stained on the history of the thin blade, he remembers the fake for the fanatical roleplay of the rotten, directionless mob. Letting out a fine, mocking jab, the soldier points out that with a tough name on his record, the stuttering, deceased fool doesn't live up to a real challenge, thrown in the drooling trash. Gathering the splinters to easily toast in the burrow, the master of arms, scratching the tip of his finger, agrees to sweep up the rest of the carcasses, looking for gold and rotten scraps. Suddenly, his scarlet eye shines with golden bands, tracking the depths of the blind cave, reading deep mysteries where a nailed noob with no vision breaks his neck in the dark. Widening his sacred vision, the MC stops, confused, fixing on a suspicious little spark pulsing gently, silently in the thin crack of the dead walls. Suspicious of a crooked ambush, he realizes that a blind light burns away shallow vision, erasing logic from the scenery, proving secret herbs are rolling in the thin, short, hidden, dirty, silly, cute, smooth, gentle, free, loose, clean, rich, calm master ditch. Checking the abyss, the blue interface cries, notifying a brute miracle, lighting up the sacred, secret, cursed, and forgotten lair for the lucky newbie. Laughing easily, beautifully, gently, cute, rich, smooth, clean, free, loose, strong, calm. In a bursting flash, the roulette of God screams, glorifying the lucky pioneer, blessing the MC with eternal fame as an abyssal hunter unlocking a prize. Haunted by the fat treasure loose in their faces, the hunter whispers the magic name, widening his vision, finding it a garbage joke to run into the dangerous tomb. Searching his memories, the King of Slices lists difficult levels, pulling up festive dungeons, infernal raids, unique monsters tied to fake legends. Recalling the key pieces of the shallow legends, the sergeant points to the hidden maps, the dangerous, rare, most op wonders to drop gacha loot loose. Smirking mischievously in his desperation to jump into the dark pit, the madman calculates miracles to get in there without jumping. Stunned by the fine print, he widens his eyes, confirming absurd, isolated rules demanding a blind, suicidal hero mode without the support of a party of mages. Blasting the machine's dumb pattern, the basic trinity breaks, demanding silent, deadly isolation. The legend swears that a mechanic like that punishes support. Shrugging his shoulders lightly in the cold listlessness, he relaxes, dictating that finding a dark lair without logic is the nonsense of a madman who has no shallow map, crying. Analyzing the shallow golden plaque on the wall, the MC confirms the dangerous abyssal rank, closing the chance of respawning, locking the cowardly fearful one far away, gentle. In flames of lethal warrior passion, the cocky soldier's boot cracks, hitting the entrance floor, ensuring absolute victory without retreating. Cutting the scene to the angry old man of the ancient server, memory teaches the crazed newbie the analogy of putting your head in a beast's maw. The dumb poetry of a shallow, blind legend points to dangers in the blind abyss of doom, and that no one comes out alive playing by jumping into the trap. Slicing through the flawed logic, a dumb instinct of the alligator leaps in the woods. Immersed in the breeze, the noob legends warn of the dangers of dumb PvP that saves no one from the weak maw of a blind, dumb crocodile in the swamp. And with its jaw wide open, silent, the predator waits for the weak, fat, defenseless mob to fall in to be chewed up like rubber. Stepping deep and dense, the smoke finally swallows our slayer, tearing through the scarlet, dark, huge doors, locking everything in flames at his back there free. The moment he passes into the darkness, the black barriers suck his strength and light the infernal flames on his arm, demanding the strength of the hidden rotten poison. Popping up for good, the cursed darkness swallows his vision, stealing the normal lights, blinding the hero's every short step. As soon as the dark vision ability tries to blind the MC, darkness takes over the scene. But his hero passive immediately kicks in, resisting the mental corruption and ignoring the debuff right away. With a quick gesture, he pushes away the black fog and smiles, finding this a warm and very fierce reception. Annoyed by the invasion, the shadow goblin boss questions the human's audacity, saying he doesn't have a shred of fear. Firm on the cave floor, our warrior just stares at the purple threat, preparing his sword. From the shadows, dozens of disgusting undead goblins start to crawl, letting out bizarre whimpers. To make matters worse, a giant zombified spider jumps in front, screaming in fury. Totally disgusted by the macabre sight, the kid makes a face of revulsion, cursing the creatures. With a sinister laugh, the hooded villain mocks, thinking the invader is dying of terror from his little children. Revealing the name Jiad Black, the interface confirms it's a hero rank boss, leaving the MC surprised by the title. Even knowing that secret dungeons are absurdly difficult, the hunter scratches his head, intrigued. In his memories of the demon dragon, he smiles greedily, imagining what the big prize will be this time. Intrigued by the visit, the purple monster wonders to himself how a mere human found that hideout. With his gaze fixed on the opponent, the sorcerer notices several mixed auras and realizes the guy is a very peculiar being. Soon our little MC smiles, complimenting the creature's sharp intelligence for a simple goblin. Without mercy, the boss raises his hand and sends the horde to attack, stating that the invasion has sealed the guy's fate. Immediately, the wave of undead aberrations runs crazily towards the hero. Baring his teeth in a psychopathic smile, our guy says he'll have to teach the monster to be tense. At a ghostly speed, he appears in the middle of the minions, dictating that mages need to keep their distance to survive. Like a bluish flash, the legend pops up right next to the villain's face, causing a shock of pure terror. Quickly, the system beeps, activating corpse control and increasing the sorcerer's speed for an escape. In a dirty trick, the boss detonates the corpse explosion spell, raising a purple blast of pure chaos. Landing far from danger, the hooded goblin skids on the floor, catching his almost impossible breath. Trembling with rage, the monster clenches his teeth, staring daggers at the smoke from his own destructive magic. Believing he has annihilated the threat, he already flashes that smug little smile of a sealed victory. But the dust settles, revealing the swordsman intact, standing in the middle of the hall as if nothing had happened. Firm with his dagger in hand, the ex-military man just glares at the opponent with that scarlet gaze. Desperate, the magic lord sees the bleed status on his screen and yells, asking when he was wounded. In a mocking tone, the MC asks if the creature got scared and reminds him of the warning to be tense in the fight. Consumed by blind fury, the aberration prepares another energy ball, cursing the kid as a rat. In the rain of purple rays, the villain swears he wants to see how long the invader can keep dodging. With perfect acrobatics, the hunter leaps across the map, leaving the explosions to eat dust on the floor. Resorting to a massive attack, the goblin just keeps throwing power wildly across the entire scene. With impeccable fluidity, the military boot steps on a stone, dodging the lethal beams at the very last moment. Focused on his movement, the guy states that he can perfectly predict where the mage wants to land the hit. Thanks to his sharp vision, the hero instantly deduces the dirty strategy the boss planned next. Landing in a clear space in the hall, the swordsman plants his soul on the ground, awaiting the deadly pounce. Thinking he has trapped the rat in the mousetrap, the villain opens his mouth wide, yelling that this is the end. Through the supreme magic of corpse explosion, a giant purple pillar destroys everything, lifting the cave floor. Acting arrogant, the villain says he was going to go easy, but shuts up as soon as the targeting mark disappears. Getting a deadly scare, the creature freezes, feeling the executioner's presence stuck to its own neck. Glued to the creature's back, our hero gives a sick smile and asks if the ability failed. Without giving a chance for a reply, a heavy right cross smashes the mage's green face without mercy. Thrown far by the weight of the punch, the monster rolls on the ground, eating dirt and screaming in pain. Coughing up purple blood, the mage tries to get up from the dry blow, completely disoriented and weak. Pressing his prey, the boots advance coldly while the beast cries in pure terror. Bathed in a lethal aura, the sergeant pulls his longsword, overflowing with a thirst for slaughter. Like a coward, the beast stammers, cursing the guy and swearing cheap revenge. Cutting through the theatrics, the MC sinks his closed fist into the poor thing's stomach, making it cough up its soul. In a brutal boxing sequence, the hunter delivers furious punches, breaking the plague's defenses. To finish the combo, an arcing sword swing sweeps the limp body, throwing the trash to the other side. Raising his hand in desperation, the villain begs for time and our guy freezes his fist, curious. Whining comically, the boss accuses the guy of hitting his bones, calling the move dirty. Completely indignant with the scene, the kid lowers his sword, wondering what kind of pathetic boss this is. Doubting its rank, he questions if a weakling like this really has a hero rank in the game. Analyzing the magic, the warrior admits that even with the op explosion, the guy is too weak to fight. Taking advantage of the quick distraction, the purple rat flashes an evil smile behind the human's back. In a cowardly move, the villain launches a snake of shadow magic, trying to pierce the opponent's back. With a slight turn of his neck, the ex-military man simply blocks and ignores the surprise attack. Gathering mountains of darkness, the monster mocks the dumb human, swearing he only faked the pain to find an opening. Activating his final trump card, the Lord invokes his demonic bloodline, activating Phase 2 of the combat. Surprised by the screen, the guy's eyes widen, noticing the massive jump in the creature's raw stats. With an excited little smile, he states that the game gets serious when the trash jumps to the Hero Plus class. Gripping the hilt of his large weapon, the legend dictates that bosses of this level require real groups, so he won't go easy. Lowering his combat stance, our slayer advances like a runaway train towards the target. Mid-run, he opens the panel and injects all his remaining points purely into physical strength, exceeding the limit. Thanks to the armor bonuses, the sword descends in a brutal arc to settle the score with tripled force. With a swift crash, the charge cracks the cave floor in the blink of an eye. Shocked by the absurd damage bonuses, the Goblin Lord stammers that it makes no sense at all. Fixing his prey with scarlet eyes, the MC declares that everything is equal before overwhelming strength. Without giving a chance to defend, the heavy sword descends in a lethal red arc, splitting the darkness. With an agonizing scream, the dark mage disappears as the system declares an official victory. Bathed in the aura of conquest, the ex-sergeant reads the message confirming the cleanup of the secret dungeon. Suddenly, a pillar of divine light descends from the ceiling, instantly leveling up the warrior. As he collects the heroic prizes from the ground, he celebrates the drop of the spiritual orb in the shaman's mantle. With the robe in hand, the guy weighs the ambiguous options, but agrees it's good to have extra equipment. Right after, a mysterious item catches his attention, revealing the trait of a forgotten clan. With a hand on his chin, the hunter finds the lack of information strange, since this was rare even in the old game. With a quick tap on the panel, he puts the mystery aside for later, until a new shining notification appears. Faced with an unidentified card, the kid's eyes widen, confused by the reward. From his Demrock memories, the old system used these cards for heavy spells and enchantments. Quick on the uptake, he raises his sword, guessing it must be a consumable for enchanting weapons. To the veteran's total surprise, the screen reveals that the item actually summons a protective guardian. In server legends, summons are usually giant elemental beasts or armored golems. With a hand in his hair, the guy sighs, admitting that a pet could come in handy on the journey. However, his mind quickly warns him that unless it's a divine dragon or a legendary tiger, things get complicated. In reality, most of these weak creatures are just a money sink and don't help at all in combat. In a flash of light, the card shatters and a hideous mini-goblin pops up on the ground, screaming in confusion. Face to face with the tiny minion, the newly appointed master hears the creature question why it's there. Totally disappointed by the summon's ugliness, the sergeant curses his own luck again. Envious of other players' winged and majestic pets, frustration hits him hard. To make matters worse, the tiny creature grumbles loudly that it's absurd to become a servant to a filthy human. Reading the monster's stat sheet, the hero discovers terrible traits of cowardice and dirty opportunism. Like a bucket of cold water, the system warns that zero loyalty guarantees a stab in the back at the first opportunity. Furious with the junk he got from the roulette, the guy fumes with rage, calling the whole situation crazy. Sneakily, the little monster tries to escape with short steps towards the tomb's exit. With a firm stomp on the stone, the hunter blocks the path, sentencing that he can't let the rat loose. Full of dread, the creature backs away, swallowing hard and asking what the human wants. With a vein popping on his forehead, the swordsman seethes with hatred for being called just human by his own servant. With his eyes glowing in pure red fire, he yells the insult back, scaring the entire cave. In absolute panic, the goblin jumps back, feeling the murderous aura crush his tiny bones. With clenched fists, the devil in player form warns that the minion's mentality is too rotten and dictates the rule of 1 punch per second. Confused and frozen with fear, the little guy just blinks, not understanding the imminent punishment. With a terrifying psychopathic smile, the master decrees that the exact time for a corrective beating has arrived. Facing the executioner, the little creature freezes, feeling its soul leave its fragile body. From outside the map, the echoes of punches and desperate screams mercilessly rip through the mountain's silence. With each brutal blow delivered in the dark, the system beeps wildly, raising the pet's loyalty through sheer brute force. In the late afternoon in the big city, the view from the building shows the day is ending peacefully. Suddenly, a hiss of escaping air breaks the silence of the dark room. Outside the virtual reality capsule, our guy stretches his body, tired from the gaming session. Already in the living room, the kid asks if there's food but soon sees his sister sprawled on the couch. Focused on her chips, the girl doesn't pay much attention to her lazy brother's presence beside her. With that bored look, our MC lets out a heavy sigh, judging her laziness. Soon he sits on the couch, asking about their mom, and his sister casually replies that she went out to handle some plans. When he asks what's on TV, the kid gets a shock when the girl mentions God of Savior. Full of attitude, his sister throws it in his face that she's already level 71 because everyone plays it nowadays. Completely in shock, the ex-sergeant's eyes widen, not believing his sister's absurd level. In a quick mental calculation, the veteran deduces that to reach that level, the girl must have been heavily addicted. Without beating around the bush, she confesses she's been playing for about 6 months and that a friend carried her through the difficult missions. With a hand on his chin, our little MC finds it bizarre to take a whole half-year to reach such a low rank. Hurt by the insinuation, the girl snaps back that she doesn't spend 10 hours a day sunk in the game like a certain someone. Faced with the direct hit, an awkward silence dominates the room as the two share the chips. At that moment, the TV announces news about the Hero Guild, and our guy recognizes the name instantly. With the server's rumors in mind, the hunter keeps his attention locked on the ongoing report. Chewing with her mouth full, the girl comments that this team is the most famous among the young crowd these days. Very curious about the sudden fame, the kid wants to know the reason for such success out of nowhere. On the screen shines the slick face of the guild master, and his sister declares that the success comes from the guy's good looks. With a weak laugh, she explains that girls prefer the Hero Guild 1,000 times over the more brutish teams. With a blank expression, the ex-military man grumbles that the guy on TV looks a lot like a pretty boy. Totally simping for the master, the girl sighs, saying the guy is the perfect combination of looks and charm. Annoyed by her fawning, the MC gets another comeback when his sister calls him a jealous pelican. Fleeing the free humiliation, the guy gets up to train while the girl mentions their success on their internet channel. Stopped in his tracks, the swordsman questions what this whole video channel focused on the game is all about. Shrugging, the girl says that every guild does it now, easily racking up to 100 million views. In colossal shock, the veteran's jaw almost hits the floor as he processes the absurd number of views. Stammering with interest, the kid asks about the money, and his sister guesses they must be making in the billions. With his mind spinning a mile a minute, our protagonist can only imagine how many mountains of fried chicken he could buy. Totally mesmerized by the money, the guy walks like a zombie, repeating the billion-dollar figure out loud. Still in an absolute trance, the bedroom doors swallow the boy, who disappears into the darkness, focused on the cash. Soon the door slams shut, leaving the room in silence again. Alone on the couch, the girl makes a face and calls her brother a weirdo for freaking out over money all of a sudden. Inside the machine, the system blinks neon blue, validating the identity card and completing the sacred synchronization. Back in the virtual world, the hunter immediately opens the game panel, activating screen recording just in case. Suddenly, a dark portal spits the goblin minion right in front of our hero, back on the map. Full of falsehood, the little creature greets his master, but the swordsman tells him to cut the fancy talk. Terrified at his core, the little guy stumbles over his words, while the warrior tells him to call him whatever he wants. Without much patience, the ex-sergeant throws the dark magic mantle straight at the naked little monster's face. Making it clear he can't wear the clothes, the guy tells the minion to put it on, but the system immediately dings a loss of loyalty. With his little eyes shining with hope, the goblin puts on the hood, believing he has gained freedom like a house elf. Cracking his knuckles, the executioner seethes with hatred, yelling a nice, loud "what" in the dwarf's face. Trembling with fury, the rat backs away, thanking him through tears, and the loyalty bar goes up 2 points by force. With a tired sigh, our MC finds this up-and-down trust system ridiculous. Hidden under the giant mantle, the pet questions what the duo's next deadly destination is. With that old malicious smile, the master announces that now they need to run a lot. Not understanding the crazy plan, the creature blinks its bulging yellow eye. Whizzing through the wind, the sharp blade is already descending, slashing a giant spider that hisses in pain before it's taken out. In an absurd carnage, the kid clears the area, taking out red goblins and poisonous spiders in the blink of an eye. Cowering behind a tree, the pet trembles, watching the master's brutality as he cuts everyone down without mercy. Feeling sorry for the beasts, the little guy mutters that running into this red-caped demon is pure bad luck. Soon the sergeant's deep voice calls and the servant runs obediently, dragging a stolen sword from the ground. Sitting on a log, resting, the warrior points to the items, telling the creature to summon an undead right there. Immediately, the magical minion prepares its little arms to begin the dark spell. Free of the heavy weapon, the little creature concentrates fully on the fresh corpse thrown on the grass. Quickly, a macabre purple aura begins to leak from the goblin's hands straight to the crushed corpse. Yelling strange words, the mage's dark magic reaches its peak, invoking the profane force of the abyss. With a guttural whimper, the red monster opens its empty eyes, reborn as a bizarre zombie. Impressed by the scene, the little MC reads the screen, confirming the perfect resurrection of the dark minion. Full of pride, the sorcerer announces that he's finished the job and shows off the small army of zombies ready for war. Nodding his head, the hero praises the thing's usefulness, guaranteeing that the troop will serve as a perfect shield. Behind their little leader, the rotten monsters growl, obeying the silent commands from the shadows. But suddenly, the zombie gang turns its back and runs off in a mad dash into the dense woods. Completely stunned, the ex-military man questions where on earth the dumb puppets are fleeing to. With a clever little laugh, the pet explains that he sent the minions to gather the loot scattered across the map. With a blank face, our guy realizes that the sneaky goblin is already outsourcing the manual labor. Cutting through the wind with his sword, the guy complains about the slow leveling and hopes a strong creature pops up. Hearing the word elite, the hooded minion perks up his ear, stating that he knows the exact nest of those monsters. Turning his neck with a snap, the swordsman freezes, his eyes widening at the creature's sudden revelation. Very calmly, the little guide reports that these elite pests do nothing all day but stay in one spot. At the word gathering, a giant demonic smile rips across our professional slayer's face. Before the vast mountain landscape, the trek towards the true slaughterhouse finally begins. Deep in the woods, a group of beefy goblin warriors rests peacefully around a bonfire. From behind a bush, the minion points to the brutes and asks if those are the exact targets. Utterly perplexed by the number of strong creatures, the guy whispers that this situation is crazy. From the size of the packed camp, he can hardly believe the absurd number of enemies together. Soon the system dings, generating a surprise mission that promises an intermediate skill ticket. Focused on the reward, the hunter declares war on the spot, vowing to clear the entire area. Suddenly, one of the monsters hears a strange noise and turns its face towards the trees, startled. Like a missile, our swordsman leaps straight from the shadows, flying towards the camp. Full of confidence, the kid gives a sarcastic hello in midair, ready to start the afternoon's massacre. Out of pure instinct, the red beast raises its broadsword and tries to split the invader in half. In an agile somersault, the sergeant perfectly dodges the enemy blade, letting the weapon cut through the wind. Pulled by the weight of his own frustrated blow, the brute loses his balance, leaving his guard wide open. In total shock, the red minion's eyes widen, realizing his attack failed miserably. At the same moment, our hero sinks a brutal knee strike straight into the beast's chin. From the dry thud of the impact, the monster's teeth shatter, sending blood flying everywhere on the screen. Furious at their companion's beating, the other warriors advance, roaring with hatred. Without blinking, the kid pulls out his swift dagger, which begins to emit electric beams of bluish light. Activating his deadly advance, the hunter becomes a blur of speed, piercing multiple enemies in sequence. Immediately, the system notifies a bleed status as the creature writhes in pain. To finish the lethal dance, his boots plant on the ground and he shakes his blade, cleaning off the red pixels. Without giving a second of peace, new brutes leap from the shadows, drooling with rage. Drawing his heavy iron sword, he parries the brutal smash, sending sparks flying. In a clash of brute force, the friction of the blades crackles loudly, testing our warrior's resistance. Terrified, the creature realizes that this human strength surpasses the weight of an elite warrior. In a leverage move, the hero breaks its defense and launches the monster's heavy body straight into the air. Flying uncontrollably, the beast coughs up blood, feeling its bones fractured by the pressure. Quick on the draw, the swordsman pulls his dark blade over his shoulder, readying the final cut. Pushing off the firm ground, the hunter leaps to the same height as the defenseless target. Facing his own demise, the brute can only let out a pathetic squeal of terror. Fixing his scarlet gaze, the legend shows not a single ounce of mercy. Like a bloody lightning bolt, the attack slashes the beast from end to end, finishing the plague in midair. Completely sliced up, the beast's carcass collapses with a look of agony before melting away. Landing in the destroyed camp, the kid reigns alone on a carpet of slain bodies. Watching from afar, the little sidekick whispers, shocked by the insane level of the slaughter. Swallowing hard, the pet swears that Guy's power defies all logic of a normal player. Seeing his master's diabolical smile, the servant concludes with terror that he's following a true demon. Suddenly, a colossal crash makes the ground tremble as a giant blue foot smashes the floor. Wiping his steel blade, the MC calmly comments that he's already annihilated the troops and was expecting the boss to show up. Breaking through the dust, the gigantic Lord Karuk emerges, wielding a colossal axe. Straight on the screen, the system confirms the arrival of the elite hidden boss with berserker attributes. Instead of fear, the guy's eyes shine with greed, calling the monster a loot piñata. Without delay, the beast roars with hatred and brings down its hammer, aiming to crush the defiant one's skull. With pure reflex, the ex-sergeant slides across the field, heading towards the colossal danger. Like a meteor falling from the sky, the blue beast sinks its axe into the ground, shattering the earth. Hidden among the rocks, the pet screams in panic, swearing the boss is too strong. Desperate, the minion warns that the magic weapon will shatter the thin sword on impact. Cold as ice, the hunter locks his calculating gaze, reading the lethal trajectory. Drooling with fury, the boss readies his relentless strike, activating a menacing bluish aura. With a blow capable of splitting mountains, the axe cracks the air, hitting the player's defense. Suddenly, the brute's eyes widen in shock, realizing the blow didn't connect. Even the little sidekick blinks, confused, not understanding why his master's blood didn't spray. Sliding his own sword to the side, the warrior deflects the colossal weight in a fluid block. With that unmistakable cocky smile, the veteran proves that technique beats brutality. Completely enraged by his failure, the beast grinds its teeth, drooling even more hatred. Retrieving his weapon in midair, the monster gives no respite and pulls back for another violent arc. Firm in his stance, the kid adjusts his grip on the hilt, readying his own tactical response. Exploding with sparks, the blades collide again in a friction that sends a shockwave through the scene. Dancing with doom, the guy chains together a crazy sequence of perfect blocks. Completely dumbfounded, the pet stammers, unable to believe the fluidity of that technique. Countering fury with dexterity, the warrior's blade holds back the heavy smashes at the same speed. Sweating with adrenaline, the hunter keeps his eyes glued to the enemy's blue musculature. According to the system's explanation, the parry skill deflects frontal attacks but costs a fatal mistake if missed. Being a basic guard, the reaction time transforms the block into a completely broken weapon. But the ridiculous margin of error makes almost everyone give up on using it in practice. Laughing at his own luck, the veteran finds it bizarre to have pulled such an op passive. Breaking through the block, the boss puts all his strength into one last crushing advance. A deafening crash shatters the stones as the auras explode together in a bright flash. Pulled by his own brute force, the beast loses its balance and stumbles forward. His mouth wide with terror, the monster realizes his blow hit empty air. Exuding pure murderous intent, our little MC mocks, asking if his attack magic ran out. Feeling doom right beside him, the giant's bright eyes widen in terror. Witnessing the fall of the relentless leader, the goblin servant freezes, breaking into a cold sweat. In a clean and swift cut, the blade slashes the giant's flesh, sealing the definitive victory. Soon, the golden screen shines, confirming the successful completion of the heroic challenge. Shocked by the hefty prize, the kid celebrates the 2 extra lottery tickets. Coming out of hiding, the pet jumps for joy, celebrating the absolute massacre. Ignoring the party, the hunter immediately moves on, leaving the servant talking to himself. Thinking his master is a demon in a fight, the dwarf finds it bizarre that he freaks out over simple little cards. Panting with anxiety, our little MC immediately pulls the first ticket, praying for divine luck. Without a second thought, his finger presses the panel, activating the magic roulette instantly. In an explosion of bluish light, the reward machine starts spinning like crazy. To everyone's surprise, the system spits out 2 rare skills from completely different classes. Being a support technique, the magic guarantees a continuous increase in physical attack power. With this insane bonus, a common sword hits as hard as a war axe. With his hands on his face, the veteran freaks out with joy, building his solo damage build. Adding the dragon's kick to the combo, the psychopath concludes that the situation is perfect. Soon after, his sharp gaze focuses on a mysterious item that fell on the cave floor. Without any fuss, he equips the new armor from the boss to retire his old rags. Quickly, the interface obeys the command, and the new look takes shape on his virtual body. Dressed in red and blue, the hunter flaunts the absurd bonuses to damage and extra stats. Giving a little spin, the kid asks his pet if the combination looks stylish. With a bored look, the little creature confesses that his master is way too scary sometimes. Reacting instantly, the swordsman questions if the creature also feels all this dread. Laughing like a madman, the legend admits he fears his own monstrous power growing within him. Slapping his own forehead, the little rat mutters in disbelief at his boss's insanity. Mentally cursing, the henchman calls his owner a crazy wretch in his dirty thoughts. At the same moment, the panel rats him out, showing a loss of loyalty, and the guy notices the silent betrayal. Staring daggers at the little guy, the ex-military man calls out the silent offense to his face. Drawing his cold blade, the executioner warns that any slip-up will result in an instant takedown. Terrified to his very soul, the servant swallows hard and fear makes his obedience rise again. Satisfied with the imposed terror, the vigilante turns his back, calling him to the next target. In a firm march through the trees, the duo continues exploring the mysterious area of the woods. Picking up his little pace, the minion tries to find out what the next stop is. Without stopping, the legend decrees that it's time to crush another boss. Shocked by the pace, the dwarf remembers they just finished taking down the elite monster. Suddenly, it dawns on the little creature, realizing that insane human's suicidal plan. According to the system screen, the advancement quest demands the head of the feared Spider Queen. Meanwhile, in a crowded clearing, dozens of players await the beast's spawn. In a conversational circle, the newbies calculate that there are only 10 minutes left until the creature spawns. In the middle of the debate, the group tries to guess in which corner of the map the prey will appear. Guessing the control points, the crowd bets that the spider will appear in the north or west. Walking right past the crowd, our duo ignores the camp of gossiping hunters. Curious about the mechanic, the sergeant asks if his pet knows the exact spawn location. Shrugging, the rat denies the help, as the pest belongs to a different generation than him. With a heavy sigh, the warrior complains that the servant swore he knew everything about the woods. Averting his gaze with the straightest face, the little creature pretends not to hear the complaint. Focused on the clock, the hunter strokes his chin, trying to deduce the position of the slaughter. Devising a dirty scheme, he decides to use his assassin technique as soon as the creature spawns. Suddenly, the Slayer passive lights up on its own, revealing the boss's exact coordinates. In the blink of an eye, the red radar pings in his vision, startling our hero. Confused by the magic, he remembers he doesn't have a specific title against arachnids. Paralyzed for a second, his sharp brain puts the pieces of the puzzle together. Realizing the level of opness, he deduces that the mark literally tracks any boss in the game. Noticing a giant hairy leg on the screen, the kid puts his theories aside. With a demonic smile, the psychopath immediately activates his stealth jump to steal the target. Left behind in the clearing, the players blink, not understanding the newbie's disappearance. Plummeting from the dark ceiling, the gigantic spider queen falls straight onto the stone floor. Like a vengeful ghost, the hunter spawns right next to the carcass of the eight-legged aberration. Impressed with his own move, the veteran smiles, seeing the teleport work perfectly. Clueless about the scene, the little sidekick asks for the trick but gets a simple "cut it out" in response. Focused on the easy profit, the ex-military man ignores the questions and keeps his attention on the danger. Cranking his neck, the guy stares at the colossal size of the disgusting creature in front of him. Drooling venom, the beast lets out a shrill screech that shakes the entire hideout. Without showing a hint of fear, the MC's scarlet eyes stare daggers at the poisonous threat. In a blind rage, the spider skewers the ground with several sharp legs at once. Activating his ninja power again, the kid turns to smoke, escaping the rain of spikes. Losing sight of the target, the beast's multiple red eyes blink in pure desperation. Spinning its heavy body, the abomination tries to find the executioner on its back. In an insane golden explosion, the kick creates the form of a mystical dragon in the air. With a destructive thud, the boot cracks against the monster's face, applying absurd damage from the armor. Knocked out by the colossal blow, the giant beast lets out a painful whimper right on cue. With the sharp gaze of a predator, the hero turns his head, focusing on the already stunned prey. Immediately, the system activates the stealth leap, covering his body with a shining blue light. Caught completely by surprise, the Spider Queen freezes in place, sensing the imminent danger. Letting out a confused noise, the creature tries to understand where the new lethal attack is coming from. Without giving it a break, the dragon's kick explodes right in the middle of the abomination's multiple red eyes. Due to the new armor's bonus, the impact tears through the pest's defense, adding even more massive damage. Agonizing on the cave floor, the weird creature babbles a sound that resembles a name. Firm in his stance, the Slayer doesn't care about the crying and already prepares the next destructive sequence. Channeling pure purple energy, the warrior's boot seethes, ready to unleash more brute force. In a swift spinning leap, he tears through the air and charges the defenseless target once more. Trembling in pain, the giant beast again whispers the same strange and familiar sound. Like a purple hurricane, the ex-Sergeant Slicer delivers a merciless shower of blows to the carcass. After the insane combo, his military boots plant on the ground, gaining a safe distance. Gaining violent momentum right after, the warrior flies high, aiming for the final finisher. Soon the system boosts the sword's power, activating the heavy attack magic at the right moment. Like a righteous comet, the hunter plummets from the ceiling straight towards the monster. Desperate with the shadow of doom, the abomination screams that same mysterious name very loudly. With the fury of the golden dragon combined, the final attack takes on an apocalyptic proportion. In an absurd clash that shakes the entire tomb, the warrior buries his blade in the beast. Crushed by the destruction, the boss spits goo, crying in pure pain from the wound. Raising a giant cloud of dust, the blow cracks the floor and buries the spider in the ground. From a distance, the little goblin minion feels sorry for the beast for having crossed paths with that particular demon. Amidst the rubble, the legend walks calmly to the stretched out and defeated prey. All broken, the poisonous queen continues to screech the name in a pitiful way. Not understanding a thing, our little MC grumbles that he has no idea who this Eliza is. With a smile of pure sadism, he raises his hand, wanting to see if the pest will repeat it as it's taken out. Begging for its life, the spider's eyes bulge, and it screams the word with even more desperation. Hidden in the shadows, the goblin pet cringes, calling his master's attitude way too cruel. In a panic, the little creature raises its tiny voice, trying to get the brutal executioner's attention. Straight on target, the blade descends quickly, while the monster repeatedly screams the name without stopping. From memory, the little goblin pet finds the sound strange, thinking he's heard it in the past. In a flash of insight, the memory hits hard, and the little creature's eyes widen in utter shock. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the little sidekick begs his master to stop the massacre at once. Confused by the audacity, the swordsman freezes his blow and hears the servant plead on his knees for the beast's life. With a furrowed brow, the ex-military man coldly questions what the reason would be to interrupt the hunt. Jumping in front of the sword, the minion cries, calling out to the spider and asking it to open its eyes. With great effort, the giant creature focuses its gaze on the dwarf and lets out a weak whisper. Desperate, the little rat insists, asking if his old friend doesn't recognize him anymore after everything. Bathed in tears, the monster queen finally remembers her companion and cries loudly and strongly. The scene quickly cuts to a flashback, revealing the past from 150 years ago in the forest. In an old memory, the goblin's human version stares at a tiny little spider on a leaf. Fascinated by the tiny talking insect, the dark mage is surprised by the cute little squeaks happening there. In the palm of his hand, he adjusts the pest, wondering if this bizarre race always existed on the map. With a gentle smile, the old man invites the small talking creature to become his travel partner. Excited by the company, the little spider jumps for joy, repeating that cute sound non-stop. Noticing the way the creature talks, the mage thinks of a cool name for his cabin's new pet. Sitting at a table full of books, he finds the nickname too short and suggests christening the little one Eliza. On the wooden planks, the little creature ignores the change and continues to squeak in the same messy way. With a light laugh, the sorcerer corrects her pronunciation, ensuring that Eliza sounds much classier for her. Defeated by the insect's insistence, the old man gives in and accepts the confusion with the affectionate names. On another day, the mage puts on his hood, announcing he would need to go out alone for a tense mission. Confused on the wooden floor, the little partner questions her beloved owner's sudden departure. Protectively, the master refuses to take the pet, stating that the destination was still too dangerous for her to fight. Under the promise of a quick return, the old sorcerer says goodbye and disappears out the door. Alone and sad, the little spider stays in a dark corner, waiting for a return that never came. By the cruelty of fate, the years prove that the owner really did disappear without leaving a living trace. In the dust of the house, the pet watches the days turn into countless nights through the broken window. For an entire century, the creature's loyalty kept it locked up, waiting patiently in the dark. As heavy proof of time, the cabin itself rotted away, leaving the spider in absolute solitude. Hopeless, the now adult beast marched into the forest, seeking the exact spot where she met her creator. Deep in the woods, the queen repeated the sacred name so that her longing wouldn't erase the master's memory. Back in the present, the emotional reunion makes the minion embrace the spider in tears, yelling loudly. To break the soap opera mood, the MC throws out that the old man simply abandoned the poor thing there. Caught red-handed by the cold logic, the little rat chokes on his tears, realizing his own big screw-up from before. With no way to defend himself, the pet breaks down into even more scandalous sobs, clinging to his old friend. With his arms crossed, the sergeant questions the real reason the mage stayed hidden for so long for no reason. With a guilty look, the henchman confesses that he is unable to reveal this great, dark secret. Totally lost in the enigmatic conversation, the hunter grumbles, not understanding the servant's flimsy excuse. With his ears lowered, the little guy sincerely apologizes for his uselessness in front of that sad, tearful situation. With a hand on his head, the legend ponders the problem that the official mission can't be abandoned halfway. With a heavy sigh, the psychopath thinks about how to resolve the mess without having to slice up his pet's friend. Very calmly, the pair of monsters stares at the master, awaiting the final decision of life or doom on the spot. Suddenly, the Spider Queen freaks out, screaming that weird name straight in the confused dwarf's face. Terrified by the sudden violent reaction, the minion screams desperately, not understanding his old partner's fury. In a total panic, the pet screams in denial while the spider roars the name Lisa nonstop. Surprised by that bizarre outburst, our guy questions what on earth got into his henchman. Covered in a macabre purple aura, the little guy's expression changes, and he tells his master to stab the beast.